Hi YouTube, welcome to the Stratosphere Lounge. I'm your host Bill Whittle, and let's turn off your commercials, why don't we? It's tough enough having to watch this show inflicted on people, and shouldn't have to put you through commercials as well. So hang on a second, let me just take care of the buttons here, and we will get right into it. Live. Bada bing. Done. Save. Ura! Ura! Tovariji! Going back to my channel. Welcome to the channel. We in business here? Yeah, looks like it. All right. Come on, fire. There it is. All right. Okay, great. Yeah, so we were just talking about Ronald Reagan's birthday today and how I miss his congeniality. It's a word you don't hear too often these days. But, you know, you go to war with the army that you got, and this this guy's a fighter, so we'll see. Eric wants to know if the bunny, since the bunny didn't work out, have I considered a guinea pig? I have not. We were actually, I mean, we were sad to see. It wasn't so much. So for those of you who missed the heart-stopping adventure here. Natasha came home with a little bunny rabbit a couple weeks ago. We named him Bunky, so I thought it was a cute name. And so Bunky was just adorable, and just bundles of love and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, one day, Bunky just started nibbling on people, and then like the next day he bit Natasha like really badly, and we thought it was a she, by the way, until we had like conditionally accepted Bunky. And I got to tell you, I have Twitch was down. Is it back up? I hope. And I kind of have a real strong inclination to nobody goes home. Once you're here, you're part of the family, and it just doesn't work as well as you hoped. It's still kind of a commitment. But it turns out that she knew the person who was the breeder, and she didn't say anything about Bunky potentially being a little territorial and all the rest of that stuff. So we thought it was a female right up until the time we took Bunky back. And then Natasha took Bunky back. And then we found out he was actually a male. So he wasn't fixed. He was a little too young for that. I will say, though, however, that Natasha did send me video of Bunky out in the backyard doing boy rabbit things, and he seemed much happier. So that softened the blow a little bit. So they were asking if we would consider a guinea pig. We have two cats. We love them, and it's just it's kind of an impulse thing, I guess, and Bunks is happy. So there you go. Yeah. Aussie Drone Guy says, get a Joey, a baby Roo, and raise them as part of the family, or a koala bear, easy to look at. They just eat and sleepy. We're talking about the colonies on this sort of demo that I'm doing, and we talked about these the biome on this planet is very, very poor. Not a lot of diversity. There is not very, very cold place. You don't have a whole lot of species variations in really, really cold climates. So I talked about, and I just stole this idea from a great book called Expedition by a guy named Barlow. Was it? Can't remember his first name. Anyway, tremendous book. I've had it for 40 years. It's great. It talked about the idea that these things had two legs. Wayne, thank you, Wayne Barlow, and the legs fused into one, so it basically was a monopod and a ricochetable saltator. That was the term. But basically, it was a kangaroo whose legs had fused into one because evolutionarily, I thought. That way, you're not losing so much heat to the ground. And we're trying to come up with a name with it, Tundaroos or whatever. So I decided to call them Pogoroos, like for pogo sticks. So there are a couple of Pogoroos out there. So, yeah, the Gyro Sprinter, Airtiki says. And that thing shot its like eye ahead of it or something like it. It was really pretty weird. But in any event. Eric says, speaking of politics, have you heard the news about Trump announcing a RICO case incoming against Spooky Dude, Soros, and Antifa? I heard that they were doing something with Antifa. Be a nice change of pace to see somebody go to, jail. But I guess we'll find out. I don't remember what show it was on. Might have been the Backstage show, where I think Scott was just saying, nobody's going to ever pay for anything ever, and I just, I'm kind of worried he might be right, but that doesn't make it any more comfortable or acceptable. I don't know how people have faith in their government again when people are able to just, flaunt the law. And I'm talking about you, Bill and Hillary Clinton. But I guess we're going to find out. Yep. So, our friend Haytak, who we knew by a different name, Mom and I were nearly killed by a pet wallaroo before I was born. The roo became dinner. Well, all right then. That'll show those bastards. I have I don't know. I guess this is just natural for all people and all species. I just think I got a stronger dose than most people. I'm sorry, you just got to check this little chat thing out. It looks kind of interesting. Where does it come from? It's an interesting question. Got him, Coach said, quick question, chat room live. Would you take $1 million cash right now, guaranteed? I thought he said Greenland when I first saw it. Or take a 50-50 coin flip chance at $1 billion cash. Heads you win $50K, tails you win $1 billion. $50K or $1 million? If it was $1 million versus $1 billion on a coin flip, I'd take the $1 million. I don't think I could turn $1 million at this point in my life into $1 billion, but I'm pretty sure I could take $1 million and turn it into $40,000, which is, of course, the apparently every business has this aphorism, but I first heard it about aviation, and the question is, how do you make a large fortune? How do you make a large fortune in aviation? And the answer is sorry, I completely blew that joke. How do you make a small fortune in aviation? You start out with a large fortune. So that's the answer to that one. Hey, Donnie girl, how are you? Good to see you. Anyway, it's just a bunch of goofy stuff. Let me see here. Rosha Dark is here, is in the house, as they say. I feel like I had a couple things, not Nothing really. Turned a kind of turned a corner on the. I'm not going to make this a Monday night show. I guarantee it, because I'm just going to mention this in passing. But I strangely feel like a couple days ago, I feel like on some level I turned a corner on the colonies for the positive. It was the kind of thing we were just like, thinking, man, this is a big risk financially, and just have faith, just have faith and confidence to keep working. And we found a person who came in as a founding father, and so we're at it for another month or two, and there you go. Oh, I remember what I was going to talk about. Hey, everybody, good to see everybody checking in. And by the way, it's an interesting question, that million versus a billion thing. I really think that I would imagine, I'm not sure, but I would imagine that people who have a gambling problem would probably take the coin flip. $1 million guarantee. Well, I may have misinterpreted what Gotham Coach wrote, but it was would you take $1 million guarantee or a 50-50 chance on $1 billion? I really think most people would take the million, but I'm sure I think if you're the kind of person who said I would take the billion, I think that's probably just a natural gambler, and I don't know. So there you go. Lady Hawk says, with my luck, the coin will land on its edge. Well, that's when you start blowing real hard from whichever side of the table you're thinking about. Richard Dark says, speaking of gambling, people were betting on whether the person answering the gambling addiction hotline was a woman. That's funny. I heard a joke yesterday, a blonde joke. It's not going to change your life. I just thought it was amusing. So if you're blonde like my wife, I had to explain to her that in America, blonde jokes are, basically stupid people jokes, because there's nothing like a beautiful blonde that, hard to pick of them as a, kind of a disadvantaged class. So anyway, there you go. So here's the blonde joke. So this blonde is fired from her job, and she's getting pretty desperate for money pretty quick. She got a lot of bills stacking up. So she just decides she's just got to do something, something, immediately. And to her credit, she doesn't do an OnlyFans or anything. She's got morals and decency. So she just starts knocking on doors, goes down the neighborhood, just starts knocking on doors and asking, is there any work that you need done that I can do, because I desperately need some money. So after 4 or 5 tries, she arrives at the house of this guy, nice layout and stuff. And the guy says, yeah, actually, I am going to take a nap for a couple hours. I'm not feeling well, but I'll tell you what, if you can paint my my porch green, it's out back. If you can paint my porch green, I'll pay you $200. And she's thinking, well, paint's probably going to cost like $20 or something. She says, yeah, I'll do it. It's great. So she marches off to Home Depot and comes back with the couple gallons of green paint. And after a couple hours, comes around to the front again and knocks on the door. And the guy comes out and he's kind of, so how'd it go? She went, great. Painted your porch green. I had enough paint left over to put on a second coat. And the guy says, fantastic. And he's reaching into his wallet and hands her the $200. And she says, thanks. And as she's walking away, she goes, oh, by the way, it's not a Porsche, it's a Tesla. There you go. Hey there, Thorsgard. Thank you for saying it's been a fan for years. Nice to hear. Always blows my mind that you've been to your hometown of Bemidji. And by the way, I the other day, I heard the radio promotion that I did. It's still on my iPhone for the trip to Bemidji from years and years ago. and I mispronounced it. I don't know I don't remember how I pronounced it, but I mispronounced it. I love Bemidji. I love the drive up there. I thought it was great. Hey, I didn't write the joke. I'm just telling. So anyway, just one thing that was kind of fun that I'm working on. Um, uh, in the colonies, I've just been. Somebody have you written any of this down? I've written a lot of it down actually, and in the pilot episode, the Turner family. I've got some great stuff to show you on Monday, by the way. Um, uh, in the pilot episode, the Turner family is deciding that they're going to leave Earth, uh, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and there's a lot of scenes that set that up. But one of them is it's Lisa's birthday, and she and Jake are kind of sitting there, cuddle up on the couch. Will's already gone to bed. Claire's gone to bed. They're talking about their future and stuff, and he goes to turn off the whole wall is like a TV basically. He goes to turn it off, and I'll just set this up a little better for you. First time we see Jake, he's walking down the street in this arcology, and it's it's not a terrible neighborhood, but it's clearly a mess. It's it's just badly maintained, and there's homeless people. There's a lot of trash around, and it's not great. So he walks into this convenience store of the future, a space convenience store basically, and he says, this is the first time we see him. Says to the kind of sleazy guy behind the counter, "I hear you have real roses. Is that true?" And the guy says, "Yeah." And he says, "How much are they?" And the guy says, $750. He says, "Okay, I'll take it." So he goes to, he's got a chip in his arm, so he puts that over his, the sensor to buy these roses. And it goes, and the guy says, behind the counter says, "Declined." And Jake says, "What do you mean declined? I got tons of money in the account." And the guy says, "No, the other declined." Oh, God damn it. So he says, "Do you have an AVM in the building?" And the guy points to the corner, goes to the corner. There's this electronic machine, this electronic voting machine. Jake is just freaking furious, and he scans his chip, and the screen comes up and it says, "Welcome, Jacob Turner." And then below that it says, "Your social credit score is 46. How many times would you like to vote today?" And he enters 5. And then the machine shows a picture of a politician and says, "How would you rate the performance of your local city representative, such and such and so and so?" 1 to 5. And he goes, 5, dink, thank you. And his social score goes to 47. And how would you rate the county person? 5. How would you rate the governor? 5. And he's just giving all these people 5s. He's just seen what a crummy mess this is. Gets a social score up above 50, goes back, pays for the roses, gets the hell out of there. So later that night, they're watching TV, and they're about to call it a night. So he turns off the TV, and and the TV says, it's very, very, very friendly. The TV says, "Yeah, it's getting late, time for dinner, I know. Just before we go, though, just something you should see. So have a look at this." And it starts playing this commercial, and they can't turn it off. And this is not the first time this kind of thing has happened where they couldn't turn off the TV. So this is the part that's actually going to be kind of challenging. I haven't written it yet, but in any event, it's going to be cool. And what they see is like a commercial, and it literally is like amber waves of grain, and slow motion. And there's a guy who sounds like Sam Elliott, and that guy's saying, some folks said that, are saying this is the end of America. You can't kill America. It's just this whole like patriotic thing. And what is this? It's like a 60-second commercial for the destruction of the United States as a political entity. I'm gonna get ChatGPT to help me write this. I may have ChatGPT write it completely because I don't have ChatGPT write anything. But this I want to sound like it was written by AI, and it's going to include every single pro-American trope in there, and it's going to list all of the awesome reasons why it's not really the destruction of America. It's the North American Central Administrative District. It's going to be a combination of Mexico and Canada, and think here's all the great things that are going to happen, and no way that America's going to lose their identity. That's just nonsense. It's just a bunch of radicals talking. And so they're watching this, and Jake's just getting more and more angry. And towards the end of this thing, it's like America's always been first to do this, first to do that. Wright brothers were the first to fly an airplane. We're talking about the high frontier and the future in the colonies. Wright brothers were the first to fly an airplane. You see a picture of the Wright brothers. Chuck Yeager is the first man to break the sound barrier. Is a picture of Chuck Yeager. First person to land on the moon, Neil Armstrong, 1969. And you see this black woman on the moon in an Apollo outfit. And it keeps going. And Lisa just gets like completely like angry, and Jake is beyond disgusted at this point because of Neil Armstrong, and she says they can't know that we don't know. They must know that we know that they're lying. And Jake says, of course they know that we know, but they also know that our kids don't know, and some of them might, but they certainly know that those kids will not know. So he does a quick call out. I figured out that AI is going to know when you're talking to it and stuff. Not going to go like, hey Alexa, but he's just going to say, give me a history of the first person to walk on the moon, and the thing will say the first person to walk on the moon was astronaut Neil Armstrong, and it's going to, and the ages, birthday and death day are going to be exactly correct, and it's going to do like a Wikipedia little read. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. It's going to be a sentence or two, but they're going to talk about how Neil Armstrong's family. The father abandoned Nell when she was just a baby. There's very little known about the father. Nell's mother was a civil rights activist in the 50s and into the 60s, and Nell's other mother was a famous astrophysicist who graduated first in her class from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and was in fact a naturalized immigrant from Zambia, let's say. And they're watching this happen in front of their eyes. I thought about saying, Mars was colonized by Elon Musk, but I figured that'd be laying it on too thick. But Neil Armstrong, and there's all the pictures and everything, and I just thought that was a really powerful way to comment on the whole, race and gender swapping that's going on right now. And I'm telling you, man, I'm telling you, it's going to happen. If these people get their way, just a matter of time. The BBC is running all kinds of programs. I think I just saw it on, was it Paul Watson? I don't remember, but I did see something where the BBC is talking about life in Victorian England, and there's like a little dance number with the British police, and 2 of them are white and 3 of them are black, and there's just they won't stop. Dig Boutte said with her co-pilot Ruth Buzzy. No, I'm going to make Neil Armstrong's co-pilot Buzz Aldrin, who was the second person to walk on another planet. But and Lupita Nyong'o is going to play Helen of Troy. Has that been confirmed? There was talk about it, and somebody said maybe they're just kind of trolling conservatives and stuff. And all of this stuff is just going to come to an end. And Eric says no, it has not been confirmed. So he says it's still a rumor. We'll see. Dave Big Boutte says Amelia for PM. Uh, I'm gonna cheat a little bit because this is a political show and it's a political night anyway. And I'm going to show you what I did my right angle on this week. Give me 1 second to find it. Because this was given to me by a Stratosphere Lounge person, and it is kind of remarkable. Hang on a second. Where is it? I hope I didn't delete it. I can get it again, but sorry about the dead air. Yeah, let me get this. It's worth a discussion. If I can find it, hang on a second. Hang on, be worth it. This makes me nuts when well, I guess you'll just have to wait for it. Hang on, one more shot here. All right. I don't see it. It's Amelia back again, and it was sent to me. Let's see if I can find it here. It was sent to me as an example of really amazing propaganda. It's here somewhere. Hang on. It's worth it. I don't get this. I get so many freaking texts. All right. Well, I'm going to do it the hard way. Hang on a second. Now that I brought it up, I'm kind of committed. Hang on 1 second. It just take me a moment to find it. Because this really is genuinely pretty thought-provoking. And I've seen another version of it. Yeah, that's it. Do I have it on the desktop? No. Here it is. Give me 1 second, and I will download it, and we'll have a quick look. Yeah, this Amelia thing's got some legs. Because I would like to talk about this, and it's a good lead off, and it's like a legitimate political question. So. Hang loose. There it is. Perfect. Here it comes. It's just, it's coming through now. Oh man, I am so sorry about this delay. It's just really, there we go. Yeah, tell me what you think of this, because I thought this was really, really interesting. So for those of you who also missed last week's exciting episode, Amelia, if you don't know the story of Amelia, the British government put together an extraordinarily heavy-handed piece of propaganda called Pathways. And it was all about the wonders of diversity and immigration. And what it was a branching little, really badly drawn branching set of like a video game where you would make a choice at various stages and so on. And there was like a meter. There's like a green and then we red. And depending on which one you voted for, it would go either green or red or stay in the middle. So every time you came to a branch in the road, you could do the good thing, which is support immigration. You could do the medium thing, which is just kind of listen to some more, or you could do the bad thing, which would be to oppose immigration. And the character they made to oppose immigration, who's the villain of the piece, they chose this, again, the animation's really ugly and primitive, but there's kind of a pink-haired, kind of a sort of a goth girl with a purple choker, purple hair. And when the British public discovered this, everybody made all the choices that we don't want any more of this. In fact, we'd like you to go now. And so it was always Amelia who was like, come down this evil pathway, except that's what the actual people really wanted. So it was an enormous backfire. Okay. So they did a 3D, an AI version of Amelia talking about all the things that she likes about, England and all of that stuff. And it just got more and more legs. But here's where it gets really interesting. Somebody made this. It's not as well known as the other ones, but I'm just really fascinated by the tone of this. It's about 2 minutes, I think, something like that. So hang on, and I will pop it in the mix, and we'll take it from there. Okay, ready? Here we go. YouTube first.
Farewell, my friend, your ticket's on the table. You're going back to that place from every story, where the air is sweet and sandals wait by the doorway, bare feet on dust and the morning starting glory. Sun all year round, warm in your shoulders, laughter and colors spilling like water. You'll walk through the crowds, breathing in the spices, simple little moments turning into diamonds. So let's not be sad if we don't meet again. You'll be happy there, my friend, my friend. I see you there in the middle of the market, kids running past as you taste something you love. Voices in your tongue rising like a river, your people all around, every face a kind of home. Sun all year round, warm in your shoulders, laughter and colors spilling like water. You'll walk through the crowds, breathing in the spices, simple little moments turning into diamonds. So let's not be sad if we don't meet again. You'll be happy there, my friend, my friend. I'll keep your chair where you used to sit and talk, carry your jokes in the pockets of my coat. We had our time, and it's bright, it's bright, it's bright. You go live your life, I'll hold you in mine. Oh, sun all year round, warm in your shoulders, laughter and colors spilling like
what struck me about that, yeah, I know, Kirk, she's being used to promote heterosexuality, among other things, among all the other phobias and so on. The thing that's so, yeah, you know what, it's so funny. I can't believe I didn't catch that earlier. Marusha said it's a British girl set to an American country song. I hadn't realized that was an American accent. But the point is, it was just so, it was such a sweet way to say, see ya. And it really kind of really hits the nail on the head. It's like, you're so determined to turn our country into your country. Why don't you just go back to your country where there's always sun on your shoulder? The only thing that I think could have made that video stronger, and it's very good, and I don't want to criticize it, it's very good, but if it had been me, what I think I would have done is I would have spent more time with Amelia in England and have it be raining or overcast or whatever, kind of like, it's cold and rainy here, you know? You really'd be much happier back in the market, you know, smelling all the spices and all of that, and you really do have to ask yourself that. And this whole, I think the much bigger point here, and this is certainly my opinion on this whole thing, is we've tried this now for 30 or 40 years, not just the immigration thing, the whole big liberal experiment, the whole thing, you know, the transgender thing and the you know, the whole Black Lives Matter thing and all of it, and this gigantic post-war liberal experiment has just been nothing but the ruin of the West, and I think people can get a sense that this is like really, really last minute kind of thing. A number of people pointed out a song called "A Million Amelias," and it's a much darker looking anime style version of this. But this is the people voting, and well, that's interesting. Aussie Drone Guy calls it he says multiculturalism. I thought he was saying multi-cruelism. It's I've seen a number of them. Plus, I've seen, you know, there's an Australian Amelia. I saw a Swedish Amelia. I saw a German Amelia. All of it. Now, I don't know if it's going to be enough, but there's no question that that it hasn't worked, and so the question is it, you know, too late? I suspect it probably will be too late for a lot of Europe. Whether or not it's going to be too late for America remains to be seen. Our chat person, Air Techie, has sent me a number of things on the colonies, and one of the things we talked about was the what Earth politics looks like in the future, and it's a you know, big amalgamation where you're taking all of these existing countries and sort of boiling them down into what we would today call multinational kind of conglomerations, like power blocks. And Air Techie did tremendously detailed work on this. You know, we talked about virtually all the countries in the planet, and I wrote back with some ideas that I'd had about it. You know, so there's the North American Union, there's the South American Union, and then there's like smaller groups, almost like third world nations that really aren't. Like, I just kind of arbitrarily described them as major powers, minor powers, and associated powers. So the Caribbean nations, including like Panama and Venezuela, Honduras, Costa Rica, part of this Caribbean Union, and the South American thing is, you know, primarily composed of Argentina and Brazil, but they're still not able to completely, you know, mesh gears because they speak different languages and have a different culture. And when it came time to figure out what to do with Europe, we both kind of came to the conclusion independently. He named it. I was going to call it the European Caliphate, and I think Airteki named it the Andalusian Caliphate, or whatever it was. But yeah, so we just started looking at these kind of future power blocks, and Turkey makes a resurgence and kind of takes a chunk out of the bottom of Russia where Natasha's home is, and kind of bites off the southern part of Russia by the Black Sea. Russia keeps Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan is a huge country, man. It's just an absolutely enormous country. And then, so we've got two caliphates. It's like a European caliphate, then there's the Arabic Caliphate, and they're very closely aligned, obviously. And then there's kind of like the Western Pacific economic zone with, which would be United Korea, United South Korea, basically, Japan, to some degree the Philippines, Singapore, and Australia, but not New Zealand. New Zealand goes off into the Pacific associated countries. New Zealand is, maybe it's just too pretty to be a serious country. I don't know. But anyway, all of these, and obviously China, the Chinese hegemony. But yeah, we both independently came to the same conclusion that Europe, oh, I remember, that Western Europe, is basically gone. Central Europe, I think Airteki included Scandinavia in the Caliphate. I just said I'm going to roll the dice on this one and just pray that somehow the genes of the Vikings holds out. So basically, the only part of Europe that we still recognize as Europe would be Central Europe, which would be Poland, Hungary, potentially Austria, and then just pretty much straight north up to Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Finland, Denmark, Norway, Sweden. But the whole purpose of good science fiction is to inspire people and to scare them too. And it would have been nice to put Britain back in Oceania, but I just don't. I don't know. I don't see it happening. I really, 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 really wanted to include, and I might still. It's a nice thing about being able to do these things. We'll talk with not only with Airteki but with a bunch of people on this. It would be really nice to have Scotland not be part of it. Just to have just Scotland, as maybe Scotland and Ireland part of the Central European kind of thing. But in any event, this video really kind of captures, I think, the only way you can present this reportation thing is like, I really think this is the only way to do it. Is like, hey, we gave it an honest run. It was a good run. This is what you say when you break it up with somebody who you've been with for 10 years or whatever. We gave it a 20 years, 30 years. We gave it a good run. We had some good times. And now it's time for us both to move on. We'll both be happier this way. The Highlanders, that'd be awesome. And all of that. Because it takes away the what am I trying to say? It first of all, the first thing it does is actually just broaches the subject. It's just that. Yeah, Airteki says at least they termed it, you have to go back, you had a nice time, thanks for coming, instead of just sawed off. But this business about, let's just face it, you miss the curry, you miss the spices in the market, you miss the the sunshine on your shoulder, and you miss all of that. So just go back. I just don't know, man. I just feel like you watch Paul Joseph Watson, some of the things that are happening in the streets. There's just these gangs of these Muslim men at nighttime standing outside of nightclubs, waiting for these British chicks in miniskirts to come out. And I remember when this first started happening in Sweden 10, 15 years ago, when we started at PJTV. These Swedish women were saying, well, we just can't dress like Swedes anymore. We basically have to put ourselves into burqas when we went outside. And I was just like, that's ridiculous. What the hell's the matter with you people? Now, when I see like young British girls coming out of nightclubs at nighttime, and they're followed home by these gangs of immigrants, and they're dressed in miniskirts, I'm at the point after 15, 20 years of this, I just want to say, what's the matter with you? What really? What's the matter with you? So there's that. Somebody asked if there's a Facebook page for Stress Free Lounge. Not specifically for Stress Free. There is, in fact, but I have nothing to do with it. We always post the links and the show times on my Facebook page, Bill Whittle Facebook page, professional page, and it's Mondays and Thursdays. Let's say probably 70% of the time. We fairly often have to push Monday to Tuesday. Monday to Tuesday, or as we do this week, Thursday to Friday. And sometimes we have to cancel. But generally speaking, we're Monday, Thursday night. So there's that. When I was watching this and talking about the subject on the right angle, I really gave this serious thought. I'm not anti-immigrant because I kind of married one, although that's only lasted for a little while. I'm married to my first wife was Russian, but I'm married to an American now. And that's because she took the citizenship test and aced it, and we went through, that was 6 years, 7 years. Hey, Tom, good to see you too. 6 or 7 years of work and doing all the steps and cost significant amount of money and time and effort and all of that. And of course, no good deed goes unpunished. We still can't get a tourist visa for my stepdaughter and Tasha's daughter to come visit the U.S. We tried it once in Moscow, and then tried it again a year or two ago in Kuala Lumpur, of all places. And she walked into the U.S. Embassy, and the consular officer said, so do you have any relatives living in the United States? She said, yes, my mother my mother is Russian, came to the U.S., married an American. She's now a U.S. citizen. Obviously, my stepfather is a U.S. citizen. And the consular official said, I'm not even going to bother filling out the paperwork. Just not going to waste your time. Not nice. Obviously, the situation with Russia is not good right now, but you get the idea, right? So, and I'll tell you truthfully, man, after 8 or 9 years of my wife being separated from her daughter, there were a couple times during the Biden years when I thought, for $600-700, $1,000, something like that, she could just walk across with the crowd, and we could just go pick her up, and that'd solve that problem. Except that I can't very well solve the problem by contributing to the problem. So we did and do things the right way, and we continue to pay for it. So that's when following the law and being a law-abiding citizen is a chump move, you're gonna be in some trouble. Yeah, a lot of people are saying I got to watch the Amelia's video. I've got it queued up. I'm just not going to do it during the show, so I'll have a look at it afterwards. Anyway, the whole thing is, none of this is really hard. It all comes down. I remember what I was saying. After watching this Amelia video and talking with Stephen Scott, I gave some thought to, well, what is it that I want from immigrants? You know, what do I want for somebody to come and live in this country? And I pretty quickly thought of it as I want three things. First of all, I want them to love America. I want them to be Americans. I don't expect them to abandon their heritage, but I don't want any question about their loyalty. And the fact that they're coming here means that they are willing to emotionally place their new identity as new people, as new Americans, above their old identity. So the first thing is, I want them to love this country. Second thing is, I want them to contribute more than they pull out. I want them to come here in order to build a permanent life for themselves, where they are putting more into the system than taking out. They're not here to take things, they're here to build things. And the third thing I want, and this is the one that really nailed it for me, was I want it very clearly understood that when they come here, they are going to remake themselves in the image of America and not try to remake America in the image of themselves. And that's really it. And the honest answer is, just it's not up for discussion. I think after 30, 40 years, it pretty much got it, that that there are many places in the world where people cannot do that, even if they wanted to, and they don't want to. What I'm going to, as I said on the right angle, just out of decency, I'm going to give the left the benefit of the doubt. I don't believe this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they genuinely believed that importing people from any of these countries, let's take Somalia since it's a hot topic. I'm going to give the left the benefit of the doubt by saying that they genuinely believe that if you imported Somalis into Sweden, they would become Swedes, and they would contribute to the social state. That's why they let them in, because their declining demographics meant that they couldn't continue to support their cradle-to-grave nanny state. But there's no question that didn't happen, and the longer we watch it, the more we realize it not only didn't happen, it couldn't happen. They're just not equipped for it. They're not equipped for it. And so this experiment has failed, and it's time for them to go back home. It's like having somebody come and visit you for 4 days, and they end up spending 4.5 months here. It's like, love you, time to go. So I think more and more every day, people are beginning to realize, especially in Europe, that this is like really serious. And honest to God, if this election had gone differently, and another 2 million people had come in instead of the borders being closed and slowly starting to bail this boat out, I don't know. But this is how you can tell that this immigration thing is in fact the left's core strategy, because this is the hill that they're going to fight on. They're going to fight and die on this hill. I think more than Black Lives Matter, more than Palestine, more than the transgender movement. This is the hill that they're gonna fight and die on, because if they cannot import voters, they're finished. And the psychotic reaction of white liberals, virtually all of them, well, all of them are white liberal females. There are some males in that, biological males in that bunch, but there are no liberal men, pretty much by definition these days. But hey, watching these people saying we've just got to start killing ICE agents is really unhinged. And this idea that that ICE is this Gestapo, it's this cruelty, we just got to own. We got to own the moral narrative. This is probably the first thing I ever said in the political commentary business 23 years ago now. Is you've got to own the moral argument. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what people say. It doesn't matter what they think. It matters how they feel. And so the left is saying you're tearing families apart. And Homan openly said, yeah, that's right. When we arrest people for drunk driving, we tear families apart too. And the thing has just got to be flipped to, if you hadn't let 10 million people in 4 years, then we wouldn't have to do this. We're not the ones who created this problem. You are. You're the ones that did this. It was cruel to let these people into this country. You knew why you let them in, because you realized that you have to have foreigners come in to do the jobs that Americans won't do, and that is vote Democrat. So it's got to be done. And I really do wonder, in the case of let's take England in this case. I really do wonder if there is a chance for them to actually do this. I would have said, even a short time ago, I would have said, not a chance. But strangely enough, Gen Z may be the ones to do it. They're scheduled to do it if you buy the fourth turning argument, and I do. And I think the reason that they may be the ones to do it is it seems like Gen Z, as opposed to millennials and Gen X and and the boomers and so on, they really don't seem to care much about being called racist, because they have been raised as the, especially, well, almost exclusively the Gen Z men have been raised as the scapegoats for everything, and that was the world they're born into. They've just been the scapegoats for everything, and they've seen their futures been sold, and I just don't think they have any F's left to give, and that's basically what it's going to take. So we don't know, but we're going to find out. Which says, contrary to your Gen Z hero narrative, is Nick telling his Groyper army to stay home and let the Dems take over in the midterms? He's done with Trump, Cash, Bondi, and Noam. Yeah, I think Nick, you heard me say it here. I really maintain that I'm the first person who ever said this. We were talking. He quoted me on, somebody sent him a clip of a show where I was talking about him about a month, it's 5-6 weeks ago now. And I said, I think we're seeing peak Fuentes, and we were. Here's the thing. I'm sure we'll get into this when we get into the questions in just a second. What the Epstein files have shown is that Epstein was a representative of the Rothschilds. This isn't apparently speculation. This is how Epstein introduced himself. He was a fixer, and the network that he represented was the Rothschilds. And he has, it's been shown in the Epstein files that he used terms like, well, let the Goyams figure it out and all the rest of this stuff. So Nick Fuentes is selling a fleece that Epstein was wearing with an American flag patch, and there's a real specific kind of a diamond-shaped logo in the front. And Fuentes is selling that fleece as kind of a, what he does, which is, just try to be outrageous as possible to get clicks. But what Nick Fuentes is selling is he is selling what is in fact an actual genuine anti-Christian Jewish supremacist clothing, while he represents the Rothschild banking empire, which is, even as little as a year ago, kind of the height of conspiracy madness. He's just collapsing every call he makes. When he said, "Oh, it wasn't really pedophilia and stuff," and here's the guy who's talking about replacement theory, and he's a champion of white Americans, and he's saying, getting married is gay and you shouldn't do it, And then there's all the pictures of him with his cat girlfriend. So he's really just basically come out as kind of a gay Christian standard bearer who is claiming himself as a defender of white America while he hangs out with furry degenerates, and now has a shirt showing off how cool Jeffrey Epstein is, who is a Jewish supremacist representing the Rothschild International banking cartel. Well done. Well done. Hey, Cliff, how are you? Well done, Nick. He's not finished owning himself. He's got a few more to go. But honestly, his entire appeal was in his forbidden fruit aspect. Now, Marusha's going to correct me, of course, because that's Marusha's job. Bill, you're at risk of making the same mistake Piers Morgan did. Nick doesn't care about being labeled him a bigot. He thinks truth is on his side, and the Epstein stuff helped him in that regard. How could it possibly? I've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments of people saying, I'm done with him. He's a fraud just like everybody else. He took he got the check, he took the money. By the way, didn't he also sign an agreement? Did he sign $1 million sponsorship for gold? Some kind of a gold promotion? Right? I mean, the guy, you want to talk about the optics. I don't know who's behind this gold thing. I just say that if Nick all of a sudden has changed his tune, and he's changed his tune on just about everything, and now he's apparently gotten like $1 million deal to promote gold, it really actually is beginning to almost look like it is in fact a Mossad operation. I mean, how do you make the optics worse than that? I've changed my opinion on a lot of this stuff. By the way, I really love this company that's been selling gold, and here's $1 million for you to change your mind. That's one nice thing about being a boring old guy like me. By now, I know myself well enough to know there is no amount of money you can pay me to change my moral position and my ethical position. I've had enough offers and enough opportunities that I haven't taken to know that I am not purchasable. I know that sounds like fanfare, but it's not. I mean, it's a monthly struggle to connect the ends here on expenses and income. And we rent a house, and my car's I love my car, but I sound a little bit like Tucker Carlson there. But my car's 8 years old now, and they're just, and I'm not the only one. I guarantee you, virtually everybody watching this understands that there are some things that you cannot sell and still be yourself, that you can't sell and still face yourself, and this is one of them. So, yeah, the bitchin' Camaro. That'd be BC3, by the way. That'll be our shorthand. The current car is BC3. Bitchin' Camaro 1 was. I like this actually because it's always a lot of fighter pilots. When they get their plane shot out from underneath them, they just come back with the same name. And Robin Olds had what was this? Robin Olds. What was his airplane's name? I should know this. I'm embarrassed. Scat? Was it Scat? Scat. Yeah, it was Scat. Scat 6, Scat 13, Scat 20, whatever. So anyway, BC1 was a 1970 Camaro, which I got in 1976. So it was a 6-year-old used car. Bitchin' Camaro 2 was a 2012 Camaro, which I got in 2012. It's the first new car I ever had in my life. I was 53. And then BC3 is a 2018, which was which was assigned LT2 at the factory, but identifies as a rally sport. And I spent a lot of last year going through the emotionally taxing process of getting that Camaro into the body it was supposed to be born in. All right, enough of this nonsense. Let's get on with the questions here. See what we got. I can't get that song out of my head. That's a catchy little tune. Bum, ba-da-da-dum, dum. TSL questions 4020626, curated by Road Rider. Thank you, Road Rider. Really appreciate it. It's very kind of you. Let's see what we got here. Go through this. Bitchin' Camaro. Got a bitchin' Camaro. Yeah, man. Dead Milkman, I think it was. So let's see. We got a Road Rider. We got an Eric Oshiro. I haven't seen Eric for a while. Good to see Eric. We got and a bunch of responses. We got Capital G Geek. We got Ian Nolan. We got Marusha Dark. We got a Robert Line. Hey, Articulate. We got Bob Neef. We got a Marusha Dark. We got Esther Sia. We got an Eric Blake. Eric's always last. He does this somehow. I think he waits till the last moment and like snipes the last position. Fiendishly clever quality if you think about it. It's a fiendishly clever strategy. Eric needs to step up again. Now he knows what he's doing. And let's just not pretend that he doesn't. Okay? We're not going to play that game. That's a little weird. Okay, I could probably work with that. Enough of this gay banter. Who will relieve me of this troubling faggotry? Yeah, I said it. All right, here we go. Road Rider. Years ago, in your epic History of Political Correctness, you noted that Marx's use of an economic reason for uniting the people of the world in the glory of communism didn't quite work out and was replaced by those at the Frankfurt School with a different vanguard, the dispossessed. 70 plus years later, who have modern socialists elevated to the vanguard of the movement? LGBTQ plus IPOC, or still the dispossessed, or illegal migrants, or something even newer? Look under any freeway overpass, along any railroad track or encampment, or any ravine in California and other blue states, and we have plenty of dispossessed. Yes, we do. Natasha and I took Amtrak from Van Nuys up to Carmel, and that is called it's called the Coastal Starlight, I think. It's one of the most beautiful rail trips in the world. It gets out of, it pops out right around Carpinteria, just outside of Camarillo, and runs the coast all the way up through Big Sur. It's just spectacular. It's unbelievably beautiful. And as we were pulling into one of these kind of mid-central towns, it wasn't Modesto, but it was kind of like Modesto, one of those kind of inland kind of towns like Bakersfield and other places. Kind of suck. We saw, I'm not making this up, it must have been 2 or 3 miles of tents, because it just never ended as we accelerated out of the station. This is Gavin Newsom's gift to California and San Francisco, and he wants to make it his gift towards America too. Newsom's got a real problem, and so does Ron DeSantis, and that is that they're both out in 06, but they don't get to run until 08, and staying in the public eye is going to be a little bit tougher for Gavo. I genuinely think he certainly is one of the. If I could put 5 people in jail, he'd certainly be in the 5. I'm trying to figure out if he might be in the top 3. So the answer is, has it changed? No, it's still the dispossessed. Every now and then I'll come up with something kind of pithy. I'm not saying I invented all of it, but I'm certainly independently came to it. If anybody else has said this, I'm unaware of it. But the LGBTQ movement, in my opinion, is designed so that white people can be victims too. I really don't think there's anything else you need. If you look at the kind of people who go into this, you see the same kind of deranged desire to be at least have some kind of victim card to play. I'll tell you what else the left gets to play in terms of joining the ranks of the victims. The dispossessed means the victims, and that this is the newest one. It at least seems to me to be even newer than the transgender thing, although they came out about the same time, and that is neurodivergent. You're neurodivergent, and so neurodivergence, for those of you with playing the home edition, is sort of a catch-all disability that you have. And as a disabled person, of course, you not only get victim points, you also get cash money. But neurodivergence can be anything. So maybe you have maybe you suffer from time blindness. Time blindness is a real thing, Gen Z invention, and time blindness is the inability to show up on time anywhere. It's not that you're lazy or completely lack discipline. It's a neurological condition that doesn't allow you to be on time because you can't process time blindness. The number of people who get pulled over and get your bingo cards out for that I've seen on police body cam stops for having a broken taillight who have PTSD it's not 100%, but it's 98%, 97% of the people who get pulled over for traffic tickets now have PTSD. Amazing to me, the more I think about this, I thought it was so ridiculous. I misnamed it several times. I kept thinking it was like Generation Frank or something. No, Generation Jones. It is in fact a sort of a subset because people born in that 7-8 year period from about 1958 to about 1964, technically that makes you boomer, but there is a real cultural sort of difference there. The boomer thing is really post-war America, and we were born too late for that. I see all these Gen Xers talking about their childhood. That's not your childhood, it's my childhood. So anyway, all of this to say, yes, that it's still the dispossessed. And so new classes of victimhood have to be constantly invented and vied for and so on. And the problem when you make victimhood your authenticity token, that is a political system and a belief system and a philosophy that drives everything downward. Competition is downward in that case. If you're competing to see how disabled you are in order to see how virtuous you are, then you're rewarding not just victims, you're rewarding, potatoes. The whole body positivity movement, the same thing, right? It's a chance for other people to be victims. And I think Gen Z, to their credit, it has a lot less patience for it. I've seen a lot of this relatively lately, and it's the boomers. The boomers caused all these problems, because they're such liberals. We're not liberals. And then I realized, well, I was too young for the hippie movement by 5-6 years, too young for Vietnam for 4 or 5 years, something like that. But they were in fact, boomers, that whole flower power, let's roll around in the mud at Woodstock. I mean, that wasn't me, but that was the generation that did it. But with that said, the overall values of generations seem to be more and more and more left wing with every generation. By the way, I am not aware. I guess it probably did. I was going to say I'm not aware that this whole naming generation things even existed prior to the publication of the Greatest Generation book. But clearly, this idea of just like chopping the society up into these very clean sort of vertical slices. This is your cohort, and you will do this because this is how you are. I don't know if that's really useful. Yes, R still says 64 is late for boomers. It's called something else. It's called Generation Jones, and that's kind of where I am. I think Generation Jones is like 58 to 64, something like that. I was born in 59, so it's kind of a different vibe. But yes, the left's political philosophy is predicated on failure and entitlement. And entitlement is the ugliest thing in the world. There's nothing worse than seeing people acting like the world owes them everything. That's why my favorite description was describing woke people was embarrassed by nothing, entitled to everything, contributing nothing, and there's one more. I once again messed it up. Ashamed of nothing, entitled to everything, contributing nothing, whatever, something. Anyway, yeah, you get the idea. So yes, it's still the same there, buddy, and unfortunately, it doesn't seem. It's going to be. It's going to be a rough couple years. The alphas are showing signs of not just intellectual impairment, they're showing signs of intellectual incapacity. These will be the first generation that is 100% from birth raised on iPads, and they cannot think, they cannot reason, they can't read. Offended by everything, ashamed of nothing, entitled to everything, contributing nothing. There it is. Thank you. Thanks, Infidel. Appreciate it. So, COVID whacked them. Even a year after COVID ended, psychologists were saying that this depriving young people of facial recognition, face-to-face contact, all of this stuff was going to really set them back. But it's 10 to 15 IQ points. 10 to 15. That's a standard deviation, and that means that the average is essentially functionally retarded. And there's going to be an enormous divide among Generation Alpha between 10% of the population that can function and 90% that can't. And people are blaming it on brain rot. And if you've ever seen brain rot, real brain rot, it is genuinely brain rot. If you've ever seen a Skibidi Toilet or any of these other things where, monkey reaches out and grabs a banana and it turns into a atom bomb. I mean, who knows? But what kind of parents let their kids do this? And by the way, this also gets me in another thing. Have you guys seen this phenomenon? These are millennials now. Have you seen like these beige motherhood, like the whole beige culture. Like millennials are having kids now, and they're so fashion forward that they've painted their kids' toys beige. They have like birthday parties for their 3 or 4 or 5-year-old kids, and all the balloons are shades of gray and beige because it looks so much like the inside of Better Homes and Gardens. And the kids are saying, "Can I get something colorful?" No. And some kid said, like, I'm a baseball fan. It's like 5 years old. He wanted a baseball themed room, right? And he wanted, so what would that look like? Well, we know what that would look like. It would be like there'd be posters of all the baseball players. You'd have maybe like big giant, Dodgers thing, and all of this stuff on the pajamas and on the blankets and all that stuff. But what these parents are doing is they're getting like a framed graphic looking down on a baseball diamond in geometric perfection. See, it's baseball. It's like, what the hell is the matter with you? I'm not making this up. You really need to look at it. It's like, yes, like the uniforms in Star Trek: The Motion Picture, exactly, precisely like that. This kind of muted low tones, and these mothers, these young mothers, are like so disappointed that their kids want colorful things because it clashes with their decor. Yes, Infidel 42, Futurama was great. There's this planet of neutrals. They're like the was it the Organians in Errand of Mercy, the super powerful neutral civilization that was ready to sacrifice itself but is not going to defend themselves. Turns out they're like the super powerful beings, and the Federation and the Klingons are coming to war, and it turns out that they are 100% neutral, and they think the conflict is bad. But Futurama had an episode with a planet of a whole planet was comprised of people who were just completely non-committal, absolutely non-committal. They wouldn't go one way or another, and they were under attack. And the guy says in a perfectly even tone, he says, beige, it's a beige alert, your neutralness. And then the other guy says, "If I don't survive, tell my wife hello." No, the Black and White Faces was that Let That Be Your Last Battlefield? That was not one of the greatest. And they brought that back for Star Trek, Starfleet Academy, the black and white face thing. George Freeland says they discovered a new color between beige and oatmeal. Yeah. Okay. I love Futurama. I haven't told this little bit of meme dropping in a while. So many years ago, back during the time when Friends of Abe was really popular out here, I was pretty deeply involved with that, and I got to meet and be friends with a guy who I admired for years but didn't know it. His name is Maurice LaMarche. He was the voice of Pinky and Pinky and the Brain. I'm sorry, he's the voice of Brain in Pinky and the Brain. And he plays Morbo on Futurama and Kip and a number of other voices. And he knew I was a huge fan, so he invited me down to table read for an episode of Futurama, which was great. And Matt Groening was there, and the script that they read was one of the new Futuramas, which generally speaking weren't very good, but this was one of the greatest ones. And it was the one where they keep popping into all these different alternate futures. And there was one where Fry and Bender pop into this planet that is just populated by nothing but these absolutely stunning babes that are walking around in towels. And I think the line was something like, yes, we'll feed you, but first allow us to cover you from head to toe in massage oil without using our hands, something like that. And I was just, it wasn't the Snoo Snoo episode, but it was great. I really loved that show. Really did. And I haven't seen Mo in a long time. He does a very good William Shatner. In fact, Maurice LaMarche started the Talk Like William Shatner Day. Hey, the Rough Ryan is here. Hey, thank you very much. Glad to see you live as well. Okay, so that's there you go. That's Road Rider. Moving on. Oh, we're going to be slow tonight, but whatever. Eric Oshiro. During one of last week's lounge questions, you commented that ranked choice voting was a terrible idea. I've heard that before, but not a sufficient explanation as to why that is so. Naturally, anything Democrats are in favor of should be viewed with a healthy degree of skepticism, as even good ideas are rarely implemented well. Voting laws vary from state to state, and some contests can be decided by a plurality when there's no majority. So what is the problem with ranked choice, and is there a method that can be implemented fairly and competently so that votes aren't necessarily wasted? So I was in Australia for 5 months in 1998 and happened to be there for their elections that year. And somebody explained ranked voting. So the way ranked voting works is you don't vote for one person. Let's say there's 5 candidates. You say, this guy's number 1, this guy's number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and so on. And so let's say you get 5 points for being ranked first and 1 point for being ranked last. So they total up all of the votes, and it kind of bell curves its way out. And what you end up with is mush. You just end up with mush. The left likes it because it includes the radicals. You get more like Green Party people and those kind of nut jobs on both sides with ranked voting, as opposed to the American system, which is, winner takes all. The person with the most votes wins. You get to vote for one person, and whoever gets the most, that person wins. Unless it's 2020 or something, and I sure would have a jolly old time if they can actually prove that election was thrown, and it looks like they mean to try to do that. And if that's the case, I got a few people who owe me apologies. And did you hear Bill Maher? By the way, Bill Maher said, "Where does QAnon go for their apology?" Because it turns out that Pizzagate was real, and all of this stuff that just seemed absolutely bat guano crazy was real, and Alex Jones was right about a lot of this stuff, and there you go. So Matt Harris says, I would prefer a runoff election to ranked choice voting. Yes, ranked choice voting is just terrible, and what it really means is I think probably the cleanest way to describe it, I'm not a statistician, but I think what I would basically say is, I think what ranked choice voting means is that nobody gets their first choice, right? Nobody gets who they want. You get, instead of getting an A or an F, you get a C+. And, there you go. So, there's some responses to that, but I don't have time to go into those right now. I just don't like it, and I watched it in. I didn't watch the show. I just saw the clip. A couple of people saying nobody gets what they want now. Bill, is your hair color gray or gray? So funny you mentioned that, Coach. G-R-E-Y or G-R-A-Y. I'm not making this up. Every time I have to spell gray, and I have to spell it a lot lately because I've been doing all of these AI images, and they all have to be, it's best for the AI animation engines to put them against a neutral gray. So I've been typing gray a lot lately, and sometimes I type it G-R-A-Y, and then the next time I'll type it G-R-E-Y, and then A-Y again. If I had to vote, I would probably say, I'd probably go with A-Y. Probably because I think E-Y is the British version. I'm half British, but British spelling. I'm an American patriot. Yeah, I'm pretty sure E-Y is the British version and A-Y is the American version. This one's a close call, actually. Gray. That's a pretty much of a coin toss on this one. Anyway, moving on. Capital G Geek, greetings from the swamps of Northern Virginia. Apparently it's melted up there. If the conflict goes hot, the blue areas are all little urban islands in the large red mass of the country. Cities die easily and really can't survive more than a few days without resupply. Cutting power, water, rail, and highway access in and out of them would destroy them in very short order. I remember just how thin the veneer of civilization was during Katrina in New Orleans, which was contrasted with the equally hard-hit but rural areas of Mississippi. Yes, I wrote an episode called, I wrote an essay called Tribes back in the day at Eject, 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 because I was so pissed off at what was happening in the Superdome, where there were like people dying and there was no water and there was no food. And I just said, well, my tribe knows how to handle these things. My tribe knows how to, allocate water and how to divide up food, ration food, and all the rest of it. It just pissed me off that it just degenerated so quickly, because the people I know would have not only not degenerated, they would have turned it into an example, a good example. My friend Phil and his lovely wife Bobby are in North Carolina. The floods from several years ago didn't quite hit them, but got so close that their town is one of what I guess was and probably still is one of the forward staging areas to getting relief in there. And everybody in there just got up and did what they had to do, And the what do they call it? The alligator navy of all the rednecks in the South, all the people that these elitists look down on. When there was the flooding in Texas and so on, these guys just put their boats on the trailer and drive up from Florida or from South Carolina or whatever, or the Gulf, and they just drive to wherever they're going and save people. Cajun Navy, that's it. Yep, the Cajun Navy. Awesome. It's just great. It's just great. So, there you go. Florida man needs no introduction. He goes on to say, seeing that got me to be a bit more prepared for disasters, and COVID kicked that into high gear. Do you have the ability to shelter in place for a few weeks, or a plan to leave the affected areas? To be perfectly honest with you, not much of either. There was a period there for about 10 years where I had an airplane in a hangar, and a light airplane, but that was the plan to, and that airplane I can land honestly in just about any parking lot. I mean, that thing stalls at 40 knots, and if you really know what you're doing, I can land that plane in a postage stamp. But no, the answer is no, and I keep meaning to do it, and I know if it happens, I'm going to, beat myself up as I either starve to death or whatever. Prior to the horrible boating accident, I was pretty well armed, and that's doesn't help you if you're hungry and you have morals, but it does help you if you have morals and somebody's, trying to come in and eat you. So, we'll see. We'll see. Rough Ryan's got a comment here. Let me just read this real quick. Being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you have 2 years food supply for every member of the home. I have to say I'm way less than that, but it's a start. And between my community and iDoors in Utah is pretty set for surviving short-term catastrophe. The only problem is we don't have enough water or food to sustain living without the supply chain. What's your city like? The first speaking event I did ever was at Utah Valley University and Southern Utah University, which have gotten a lot more famous than they were when I was there last year. And both those events were sponsored by Mormons, and I got to go to Welfare Square in Salt Lake City and got the Cook's tour of that. And when I was finished, I thought, Mormons are like, they're like Vulcans or like elves or something. If the United States government was run the way that the Mormon Church was run in terms of preparation, we wouldn't have anything to worry about. Yep, that's what it's called. It's called Welfare Square, and there's nothing welfare about it. It is, it's one of the most remarkable places I've ever been. It's an enormous place where people bring in fresh food, and it's canned and preserved and so on. And there's a plaque from one of the I guess it'd be a Mormon bishop. Excuse me if I got that wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was a Mormon bishop who kind of started this thing. And there's a couple of I think there's 4 giant grain silos there, And inside this building is a sign, a poster with a quote from this guy, and it's something to the effect of, it says, "The silos remind us that there may come a time when money will not buy food." I thought, ooh, holy crap. The people that that hosted me were one thing, but a bunch of college age kids showed me around. That have been 2009, or maybe it was 11 at the latest 2011. And I say they're kids, but these 21, 22-year-olds are far more adult than I am, than I was, grown up a bit since then, being married, but even more than I am. As he says, there is, these 21-year-olds were showing me around the town at night. They pointed out the liquor store. There's a liquor store apparently in Salt Lake City. And I asked them, "What do you guys do for fun?" Because I graduated from the University of Florida. And the year that I got to the University of Florida, Playboy used to have a ranking of all of the college towns, the ranking of colleges by which is the best party school. And somewhere right around the time I got to the University of Florida, that year's poll, we weren't even in the top 10, and Florida was mentioned. There was like a little asterisk next to it, and it said, "We can't put Florida in the top 10 because college athletics are obviously amateur-based, and Florida's a professional party school." And we were real proud of that. But they said, "Oh, we hang out with our families, and we do a lot of cookouts and stuff at night." I said, "In winter, yeah, we hang out at night, and we go skiing, and we just go on road trips with our family. And most of the time I spend with my family." I'm thinking, like the family, like you mean like your brothers and sisters you were born with? I've never gotten over it. I still haven't gotten over it. We would we'd go to I went to a Mormon house for dinner, and needless to say, there's no TV afterwards. But after dinner, and everybody was there, and everybody was dressed conservatively. All the girls in dresses, and the young men were wearing ties and jackets. And after it was over, we went to the living room after dinner was over. And next thing I know, this family of 7 or 8 brought out violins and pianos and guitars, and they just sang. And this inspired a great deal of the ethos in the colonies. It really, really, really did. Thank you very much, Rough Ryan, for that invitation. It says if you're ever in northern Utah. I was completely so blown away by how prepared they were. That's really what it was. That they were so prepared. They had these 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds. By the way, it's not just the food. I talked to this one guy who was driving me around. He was 21, 22 years old. By this point, he'd already done 2 or 3 years of missionary service overseas. I think he was in the Philippines. He had 2-year supply of food in the basement, which they would cycle from the bottom, right? So they just keep pulling out the stuff that was aging out in terms of shelf life. And he had $100,000 in savings at 21. And I was just knocked out. Another Mormon family I got to know very well. The father, he had eight kids, and he bought them. He bought them a business. Just got the family together and said, "You guys need to learn how to manage money, and so I'm going to buy you a business, and you guys get to go off by yourself without any input from your mom or your dad. Go out and decide what kind of business you want, and we will buy the business, but you're going to run the business, and you're going to run it at a profit." And so they all went out and conferred for a while, and they decided what they wanted to do was they wanted a llama and alpaca farm. And that's what they did. And that's where I learned that if you have a bunch of alpacas, you really need to have a llama or 2 in there, because the llamas calm the alpacas down a lot, and those llamas will go and beat the snot out of wolves and anything else that happens to come into that enclosure. So, you know, so they sell alpacas and alpaca and wool. Is it fur? I guess it's not fur. Is it probably wool? Whatever. Yeah. So and they get up every day and they shovel and feed them and do all that farm stuff and they're making money and it's like, if I'd had that kind of childhood, I'd be ruler of the world by now. But I was very impressed, and still impressed, obviously. All right, so yeah, so capital G, obviously, if there is if there ever is an actual conflict between left and right, as I've said many times, not my line, but feels right. Most of us aren't even going to get a chance to reload. So I love hearing these people talking about how they're going to take up arms and they're going to start hunting down conservatives and we're going to track you down and put you into re-education camps. And it's like, Mola and Labe, you MFers. Here we go. Nolan. Bill, latest drop of the Epstein Files Massey Force Bondi to release. Oh, the latest drop of Epstein Files Massey Force Bondi to release have shown us that Pizzagate was basically real. Mentioned that earlier. And in the worst ways imaginable, it's not just rape and trafficking, it's satanic rituals that include torture, execution, and cannibalism. How there's obviously a lot more than this. If it hadn't been for COVID, I still wouldn't believe it. But after 2020, what I saw in 2020, when COVID started, they locked us down. Dave Big Booty will remember because he's counting the days. I want to say it was March 15th of 2020. It might have been March 11th. I actually don't remember the date anymore. I used to have it down. But that's when the lockdown started, and you couldn't be out past 9 o'clock unless you were essential personnel. And this was one of the, not the first, but one of the first moments that I realized that this COVID threat is not serious. Not that it wasn't real, it wasn't the flu, but not that it was what they were trying to do. And that was, in order to be out past 9 o'clock in California, Friday, March 13th, thank you very much. In order to be out after 9 p.m. for the 2 weeks to flatten the curve thing, 15 days to flatten the curve, there it is. March 16th, Dave Big Booty says. Today is day 2,153 of 15 days to flatten the curve. So 15 days to flatten the curve, we're talking about flattening the curve and not overloading the hospitals, and all made sense to me fine. But if you wanted to be out past 9 o'clock, because I was doing Stratosphere Lounge shows and it's already 7:56, I thought, oh crap, am I going to get pulled over or whatever? And then I took a look at who essential personnel were. Essential personnel were exempted from this, and included in the people that were exempted were people in media, including online media, which means that I was essential personnel during the pandemic. And that's when I realized that's a joke. It wasn't much longer after that. It was certainly within a couple of weeks when Gavin Newsom was sitting at the French Laundry, shoulder to shoulder with medical professionals who had donated enormous amounts of money to him without a mask inside the building. And that's, was another nail in the coffin. And I think the one that finally did it for me in California was when Elon Musk said he wasn't going to shut down the Tesla factory, because here were all the projections of the total number of hospital beds, in a week it's going to be this, in 2 weeks it's going to be this, 3 weeks it's going to be this, and all of these projections like this. And Musk had right across the line, bottom was a little black line. He said, this is the data of people who are actually in the hospitals. And I thought, okay. I remember lots of moments when all this happened. Remember when, what was it, was it USS Comfort and USS Mercy, the two hospital ships? Is that it? They sailed one of them into New York Harbor. I think the other one went to Los Angeles. And they had, I forget, 15,000 beds, maybe, something like that. Maybe it was 8,000. But they sailed one of them into New York Harbor to take the overflow, and we were thinking we'd just be seeing body bags stacked. And they were in New York City when New York City was hitting the absolute spike of infections. And a couple days after that, they just sailed away. They just weren't needed. And all of it, you know, just all of it. It was just, anyway, I told Natasha that Americans would not sit still for wearing masks for more than 2 weeks, and I was wrong about that. And she reminds me about that every now and then. And the night, I think it was the night of the lockdowns, I went to CVS Pharmacy to pick up just a couple things, and the stores, the shelves were empty, and especially the toilet paper, and I was so embarrassed I actually started to cry. I was crying from embarrassment. I wasn't scared. I wasn't even angry. I was just mortified. I had never seen empty shelves in an American store before. My wife had gotten here, 4 years earlier, and I told her, all these things that we're going to do this, we're going to do this, going to do this, and no. Remember that joke back then? The most dangerous job in America during 2020 was being a tail gunner on a toilet paper delivery truck. Yeah. So anyway, back to the Epstein thing. Cannibalism. Yep. Emails back and forth describing pizza parties are profoundly disturbing, and it's a random assortment of politicians, actors, bankers, etc., prominent among whom is Stephen Colbert. And I would like that smarmy son of a gun to be a poster child for this, because he wasn't apparently a Bill Gates. Bill Gates was a star. Bill Clinton, Bill Gates. I really want to see. Gotham Coach says it was a test run to see how much people would just comply. During the first 30 days of that, we did the Chronosphere Lounge every night, and I remember there was a company, I forgot the name of it now, that had thermometers. They had digital thermometers, and they'd had them way before COVID, but this was raw data. In other words, COVID produced a fever, and this was what these, they linked by Bluetooth, and they volunteered to have this information reported just as a health warning, and we were looking at body temperature things, and there was no like spike. And I remember looking at this map. It's like, oh, no, we're not seeing lots of all this stuff, and it just. So you take that, and then by the end of that year, so that started in March, and by the end of the year, you have the 2020 election, and they shut down the counting at the State Farm Center, Allstate Center. I can never get that right, because of a water main that had broken, and then 6 states just stopped counting. They just said, well, we're going home. We're not counting tonight. That had never happened before. I was on the Daily Wire. I was on the Daily Wire election coverage, and I was on the D-list, E-list talent, and so they trotted me out right after, just before Trump came out and made an announcement, and I was sitting there with a couple people, and Trump came on and said something's going on, and so we watched that, and after it was over, Ben Shapiro said that was the most irresponsible thing I've ever seen. He has no proof of that whatsoever, that something is going on. And I said, Ben, 6 states have stopped counting. That's the proof. That's never happened. It never, ever happened. And it didn't happen in 2024 either. That's the proof. He's not making allegations. They've gone home. And, so after all of this stuff, and then the Epstein suicide, and some people are saying maybe it was in fact a body double. It was to ignore it, Eric. That was the response. So I've seen things that I just didn't. I couldn't believe, but the evidence was overwhelming. Overwhelming. Yeah, kick the poll watchers out of the editing of the counting rooms. Exactly. That's right. We had and they had video and they showed it. And then 60 Minutes debunked it. It's like 60 Minutes went and said, well, "What are these cases? Oh, those cases are nothing. No. Well, no. We're just keeping things there and out of sight underneath the tablecloth." And okay, well, I guess that explains that. And then the guy from 60 Minutes said, so what happened? And the guy who's representing the election board of Georgia or whatever it was, this is on the thing debunking the voter fraud. And he said, well, we got the call to stop counting, so we stopped counting at about 9:30, whatever it was at night, and the observers went home, and then we started counting again in the morning. And the guy said, well, I guess that explains that. And I said out loud to the TV, because people were saying, you ought to look at this, Bill. It's pretty compelling, case that nothing really happened. And I was yelling at the TV, why don't you ask this guy who called him and told him to stop counting? Who made that call? Who has the authority to tell you to stop counting the ballots? And if the observers leave, then why didn't the staff leave? Well, we sealed it. And just, okay, all right, off you go. And another thing, since we're on this subject, everybody remembers the curves, right? The voting returns. So it's a red line. Here's Trump, and Biden's below, and it's like this: Trump is ahead, Trump is ahead, Trump is ahead, and all of a sudden, quick, like that. Remember that? Just quick, and it goes like this. And when they were asked about that, they said, "Oh, no. That spike was data that had been falsely entered." I said, "Okay, by a factor of 10? So you're telling me you're entering the data for an election where you're expecting to get 40,000 votes, but you get a count of 400,000 votes, and you enter that, and you're not aware of that?" No, it was done and it was corrected. And I said, well, if it was corrected, then shouldn't it have gone back down again? If you say if you're saying no, it was a data input that put Biden up, but we fixed it, then he should go back down again, right? Nope. Nobody had the at least nobody in the media had the critical thinking ability to ask these basic questions. And I just said, okay, all right. I don't want to believe what I'm forced to believe, but there's the evidence. And some people could not see that evidence because they refused to look at it. Just refused. They just couldn't process it. So anyway, back to the question. It's not just rape and trafficking. It's satanic rituals that include torture, execution, and cannibalism. The emails back and forth describing pizza parties are profoundly disturbing, and it's a random assortment of politicians, actors, bankers, etc. But some of the more solid allegations of those who at least knew about this included the Clintons, of course, Obama, Podesta I have seen video of, Ehud Barak, Bill Barr, Reid Hoffman. Amusingly, Elon Musk kept on turning down invites to join the crowd because he was apparently too autistic to pick up on the social cues Epstein was trying to use to woo him into the group. Also, Mike Benz seems to have been involved in one other mystery. It's much more likely that Epstein was the intelligence black bag man than blackmailer. He curried favor for black budget projects he didn't sell. Compromat, I don't know what that is. Interestingly, this sort of thing, secret satanic pedophile society, seems to be exactly what Stanley Kubrick was showing in his Eyes Wide Shut before he died of a heart attack days before its premiere. We've got 3 more years of Trump, but it already seems like his DOJ has given up on prosecutions in this area. So what do we do if these satanic pedos return to power? Well, compromising material. Thank you. First of all, I've said this before. I'm less inclined to say it now, but in the early days, why aren't we seeing? It's like because it takes a long time to put together a case, and you want to nail it down, and all the rest of it. I haven't seen one single conviction in the first year of the president's term, but there is a fair amount of lead time on that. So, okay. The best analysis. Let me see if we have any other questions about Epstein here. Okay. Best analysis I heard was from Carl at Sargon of Akkad. And because he is broadcasting from Britain, he did a 50-minute video, of which 46 minutes were constant, non-stop qualifications that just because this happened didn't mean this happened. And I felt sorry for him because he'd get arrested for that. Here's what he said, and I think this is what he said based on what's come out of the files, and I really do believe that this makes most sense to me. So his theory, and again, to me, it's the only one that has really consistently made sense to me. Many of his assumptions we just know to be true. There are networks of people, and these networks are what makes power personal. Skull and Bones is a great example of one of these secret societies. Bohemian Grove is another one. You have power and money to the degree that it's almost unimaginable. And so when you're dealing with those kind of numbers, the only way that these people in these various networks who have high level of confidence within the networks, but have some serious issues with trusting other networks, when these two networks want to connect for some reason, when one network has a goal or an objective that they believe another network might be in line with, so for example, the Rothschilds banking versus, let's say, JP Morgan or whatever the case may be, right? Each one of these are self-contained little mega companies, not corporations, they're like mega tribes maybe. And so in order to connect these things where there's no trust between these two things because they compete with each other so much, the kind of person that becomes invaluable are fixers. Now, I happen to know a fixer really, really well, and he is a Reagan appointee, and he is one of the best men I know, and he doesn't do anything immoral, illegal, or unethical. He simply knows people, and he knows who to talk to. When one person comes with a problem, he knows who to connect it to. What Carl was saying was that evidence. Thank you, John. Another $100 super chat just walks right in. Thank you again. You're the best network of all. We really appreciate it. Really, again, John, thank you. I would gush some more, but I don't want to really lose my chain of thought here. But thank you. So what his take on what has been revealed by the actual data in the files is that Epstein, and again, Carl had to spend 30 minutes qualifying what I'm just going to say in a sentence because the evidence appears to be here. Epstein was a fixer, was a contact person for the Rothschild banking interest. And needless to say, the Rothschild banking interest is a Jewish-owned and run business, and Epstein, according to all the evidence from his emails, was what you would probably call a Jewish supremacist. His entire position as an individual was, let's let the Goyams get the hands dirty. We're just going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this, and they'll do the dirty work, which is the living definition of the charge against the Jews. And as Carl pointed out many, many times, and I'll point out just once for the sake of clarity, this, needless to say, does not mean that every Jewish person in America or most of them feel this way, but it is in fact the modus operandi of the Rothschild and a number of other powerful people and organizations. So what Epstein would do is he would contact other people. He was like the protein that was the on the spike protein on the Rothschild coronavirus, and he would plug into receptors on other proteins, and those receptors would be the mirror image of Epstein. They would be fixers and so on for their own networks. And Carl pointed out a great example, which is right in front of our nose the whole time. He said that one of these people was Hunter Biden. That Hunter Biden was the fixer for the Biden crime syndicate. So if you needed the United States government to do something, you would contact Hunter. Hunter would take it up to the big guy. He'd get his 10%. And then whatever group it was that needed the United States to do something in Ukraine or Qatar or whatever, would have that influence transferred by paying money to Hunter, which got to Joe, and all the rest of it. And that's how these connections work. But the thing that he said that I thought was really interesting, and this is what made me buy the whole theory, was that what you want, what the opposing network wants, if you're going to contact, let's say, the Rothschilds, and you're going to contact through Epstein, the thing that builds trust between these two networks is that the contact point is so compromised that it's a mutually assured destruction kind of a situation. That the individuals who were the conduits between these two networks had so much dirt on the other side that any attempt to renege on the deal would mean the exposure of all of the dirty laundry inside that network. And that these compromised individuals all had the same personality type. And if you think about it, Epstein and Hunter Biden have identical personality types. Both of them are neither of them are very smart people, but they think they are. They have enormous licentious appetites, probably to numb the pain of their moral crimes. They're gregarious people. They're very good socially. They have no limitations on the amount of hedonism and drugs that they do, and all of the sexual dysfunction and all of it. But the main thing is that once these two things connected through somebody like Epstein, and we saw it happen. We saw it happen in front of our eyes. The Clintons are an organization, and the Clintons were compromised by what they knew, what Epstein had them do. So ideally, not just ideally, essentially, it was necessary to involve people in the other network into you needed to compromise people in the other network so that the other network wouldn't screw you over. You had to have something that would potentially destroy that entire network if you could produce credible evidence to it. And I think that's really the only explanation, that makes sense. So the question now comes, so what really, we know who the bad guys are. The names have been consistent over time. We know the people who've been there a lot. And Bill Gates obviously is high on the list, and a number of other people. So the real question is, where does this put Trump? The left is utterly convinced he's a pedophile. There's no evidence to indicate that he is. There's no evidence to indicate he was involved with Epstein, other than the fact that, look, if you are a billionaire in New York City, that's a pretty exclusive club. Think about this. It's one of the first things I ever said when I started writing. In a club of billionaires, the guy with $900 million is the waiter. Right? He's the chump. You got $900 million and you're in a club of billionaires. You're the guy who washes the dishes in that club. So all of this influence and power is so psychologically and spiritually numbing. It's so anesthetizing that they constantly need to find out what they do. I mean, think about the psychology of this. Let's say you're Bill Gates or any of the other players involved here. But Gates is a great example. For most of your life, you've been the richest man in the world. Everything that you've wanted in terms of material and everything else is granted to you, and power and everything. You never hear no, ever. Everybody's constantly kissing your butt because they want you to back something or finance something or whatever. And so comes a point when you become so bored with the security of your life, it really, in a weird sort of way, it's almost like Universe 25. There is nothing that you really worry about if you are that rich. You don't have any money issues, obviously. You literally can do whatever you want to. And if you can do whatever you want to all the time, then being confined to the same things that everybody else can do all the time has got to be a little aggravating and kind of boring. So the draw here is that if you live your life under the microscope like Bill Gates does, is if somebody offers you a chance to just completely go off the radar and do whatever the hell you want to, and as he's dangling in front of you two things that you can't resist. Number one, a heightened dose of stimulation because it's forbidden fruit, and number two, the promise that the lights are off and no one's ever going to find out about it because the press can't find out about it, because if the press finds out that Bill Gates was at this island, then all of the other people that were at the island talking about you, Bill Clinton, will put pressure on the press to bury the story. And so on 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 and so on. And so there it is. Tom Gerlach says, Universe 25, question mark? Very quickly, this is one of the most astonishing sociological experiments ever conducted. There was a researcher whose name I should know and I've forgotten, who he did a number of tests, and this was his 25th test. And what he did was he created a utopia for mice. He had a huge open area indoors, and it was filled with straw, and there was all the food they wanted, and there were no predators, all the food, all the water, all of the straw. The mice could just burrow in there, and they could have these little tiny little places where they could all have their little baby mice. And I forget what he started with. I think he might have started with 24 mice or something like this. So the mice go into this 25th setup of this. It was designed to be mouse utopia. So they go in there and the mice start multiplying. And the mouse utopia, he calculated, probably could support like 5,000 to 6,000 mice. So you start with 24 mice, and the numbers are shooting up, and the mice are having the time of their lives, and they're happier than they can be. And somewhere around 800, it starts to slow down. The peak, again, this is off the top of my head, the peak population for Universe 25 was about 1,200 mice. In other words, no more than a quarter of what it was designed to hold. Because what they found was, when the mice had no predators, no need to search for food, access to whatever mates they wanted to all the time. In other words, when everything was perfect, everything fell apart. The male mice stopped banging the female mice. The male mice started getting involved in homosexual relationships with each other. The female mice started eating their own babies. The fighting that happened, the original population of mice never fought, but they would just see each other and they just start tearing each other up. And perhaps most illuminating about this was there was a subset of mice that climbed to the very highest part of this stacks of straw and burrowed in there, and they never came out. And all they did was groom themselves. They just groomed themselves for their entire waking hours. They didn't meet any other mice. They didn't mate. They just groomed themselves, and the researchers called them the beautiful ones. So they created their own celebrity class that was so completely isolated that all they did was narcissize and accessorize. And after a peak of 1,200, the colony died out and there was nobody left. And so Universe 25 showed that that without stress, without struggling, preening, thank you, Bun, that's exactly the word, without purpose, when you're given everything you want all the time, your will to live disappears, your irritability increases, and your life force just goes away. So, yeah, that's what elites are. They're like mice in Universe 25. They got everything they want all the time, and so they have to keep upping the dose. And if your only source of excitement and adrenaline is doing something not only illegal, but the one thing that is pretty much universally condemned. I remember when I was a little kid, I saw a documentary about prison. I think the movie was called Short Eyes. And that's when I first learned that that pedophiles are killed by other inmates in jail. That inmates who murder people for a living can put up with other murderers, but the one thing they won't tolerate are child abusers. That it's like a universal revulsion that exceeds people's revulsion for murder. So you start poking with that barrier, and it's very titillating, if you'll pardon the expression. And they were assured that they would never get caught, because they never did. Hillary Clinton was indicted by James Comey for 45 minutes, and then Comey said, "I don't think any reasonable prosecutor would take the case." You know, Epstein was murdered in his prison cell, and they said, "Oh yeah, the cameras just went out." Really? Yeah, they just broke. So the camera just happened to burn out at the time when he hanged himself. Let me see the broken camera. Well, camera fixed itself. It must have been some kind of glitch or something. And that's what they told us. And they knew that we knew. But they did it anyway because they knew we would just get angry. We wouldn't do anything about it. And so far they've been right. They kept the lockdowns going because they knew we wouldn't do anything about it. So far they've been right. Although I do think if the pandemic comes again, and I suspect it will, now that they've had a run through, we've had a run through. And all of this to say, I never would have believed that this was true, but now I 100% believe that it's true. That's what 2020 did to me. And it's not a happy place to be, but you know what? I'd much rather live in a world where I knew unpleasant truths than a world where I refused to look at them and managed to convince myself that the evidence that is there wasn't there. Rusha Dark says, Bill, what do you think the odds that Epstein are still alive, like a certain other supervillain who killed himself, and then rumors of him living in Argentina started popping up? Well, if the supervillain you're talking about is Joseph Mengele, he definitely went to Argentina. If you're talking about Hitler died in the bunker. But people had pointed out that there's like one profile shot of Epstein dead in his cell. They pointed out that the earlobes were different and the nose was a little bit different. And I thought, maybe. This was post 2020. If it had been prior to 2020, I would have just said, come on. After I saw that, I thought, maybe, but I really doubt it. Now, I think the chance that Epstein is still alive is probably around 30%. And maybe higher. So, you know, there you go. What are these numbers here? Hang on a second. Hang on a minute. Got some interesting data going on over here. Paul Jad V1T says Trump 5,000 plus, Reid Hoffman 2658. Are these the number of times that they're mentioned? Bill Gates 2592, Thiel 2281, Musk 1116, Branson 987. What are those? Are those the number of times that they're mentioned in the files? I don't know. There are files still to come. So the question is, yeah, I agree with Aussie Drone Guy. Epstein being still alive is low confidence possible. Because I've seen things that destroyed my faith in self-governance and citizen governance, which is not a fun feeling. But again, you have to have the intellectual courage to face the data. You know, I don't like the fact that there's an elite group of people that are murdering and eating babies and cannot be put in prison no matter what. That's antithetical to everything I believe and everything I cherish. And I have very strong emotional incentive to not believe that. But there comes a point when the evidence becomes so overwhelming that you have to decide, do you want to be intellectually honest or do you want to be morally comfortable? And I'm sorry, it just becomes overwhelming. And all the rest of the stuff, you know, and all the lies we were told about Wuhan and the lab. Well, couldn't have come from a laboratory. And yeah. Okay. Marisha Dark, we got a Robert Line, we got a Bob Neef, we got a Marisha Dark again, and Esther Say, we got Eric Blake. Marisha, I'm going to take one or the other. Do you have a preference? I'll do Erica Shiro. Sorry, I already did Erica Shiro. Marisha says the first one. Okay. Ian Nolan. Just did him. Okay, here we go. Marisha Dark. Topic, female modes of violence. Let me say this before I get to the question. I discovered a channel recently is really, really honestly improved my understanding of psychology, especially the difference in psychology between men and women. And the channel goes by the unusual name of Hoe Math, HOE underlined MATH. And this guy, when I first encountered him, draws these little diagrams and stuff, and he almost looked like the guy in A Beautiful Mind. But when you got right down to it and you saw his breakdown, I thought, no, he's 100% correct. There's no question he's 100% correct. And basically, just real quick, because I don't want to forget it. I've been wanting to talk about him for a while. He basically says that males put females into three categories, three vertical categories, and it's really clever. Sweepers, sleepers, and keepers. Sweepers are the women that you'll go to bed with or see occasionally who are so far below you in status that you cannot imagine your friends finding out about it. That it would just be mortifying if your friends ever. Yeah, Russell Crowe and he was oh, come on. It wasn't Johnny Van Newman. It was forget who he's playing. Nash. Thanks. Yes, Nash. Okay, so he says, as far as males are concerned, there's just essentially an attractiveness axis, vertical axis. And that attractiveness consists of physical beauty and physical fitness and all the rest of it, but other things too, like agreeableness and femininity and so on. Just a pretty simple vertical axis. And you get points off for things like tattoos, and a lot of points off for things like body count. And all these things move up and down, but it's just one axis. So it's sweepers. These are people you want to sweep under the rug. You'll sleep with them or whatever, but you don't want to be seen with them. Sleepers are the people you have situationships with, and the top half of the sleepers you might be willing to have your friends see you with. And then there are the keepers, who are the ones that you want to settle down with, and they've got the physical attractiveness, and they've got all of these other feminine qualities and pleasantness and all that stuff. And then he did an axis for women, which is a two-axis, and this really clarified things for me. So he's got on his horizontal axis, he's got, I'm trying to do this backwards, mirror image. So here is like 0, and it's 10 to here and 10 to here. So 0 is people who don't even exist. Women don't even see the 0 zeros, right? And on the horizontal axis is attractiveness, yeah, I don't want to butcher his work, but as I remember it, it's like attractiveness, 0 to 10, and on the vertical axis, it's niceness, 0 to 10. So if you're 0 attractive, but 10 nice, you're in the friend zone. You're the kind of person that women want to keep around. They don't have the slightest interest in you sexually, but you're constantly doing so much free stuff for them that it's a no-lose situation for them. On the far other extreme, on the 0 nice but 10 attractiveness, you got the bad boy. And the bad boy is the one who'll call you up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you'll come over, and he'll kick you out, and he'll flaunt a new girlfriend in front of you. He's the guy that makes all women cry and hate men and how terrible men are and so on. And they're 10 by 10 up here. 10 nice and 10 attractive is Prince Charming. And this is the difference between a nice guy and a good man. Nice guys have very low attractiveness, very high on the nice scale. Bad boys are very low on the nice scale, very high on attractiveness, but good men are not only attractive, they're also nice, meaning good men and so on. So what they're looking for is the 10 on both axes. And once I saw that, I thought, that makes perfect sense, man. Absolutely perfect sense. And somewhere in the, like in the 6 and 7, somewhere in here is like the settle zone. I'll settle for this. He also has this really great thing about what is it pronounced hypergamy? Females having more than one partner, in case many more than one partner. High body count lowers a woman from keeper to sleeper to sweeper real quick. And hypergamy, thank you, yes, hypergamy. And so not only that, he also talks about these different levels of consciousness, and part of this is based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and part of it's his own work, and a lot of other things. But like level 1 consciousness is me, needs, babies have this, hungry, tired, thirsty, lustful, me. Second level is there is somebody other than me. The third level is, how can I maneuver that person to give me what I want? The fourth level is, hey, maybe that other person has needs too. Fifth level is, and so on and so on and so on. And it's really excellent. It's just really, really good. Really, really good. I cannot recommend it highly enough. HOE_MATH. He's a really smart guy. He's a funny guy. And he talks a lot about how messed up our life has become because of social media. Because when you didn't know, without social media, the only people you could date were people who you knew. You grew up with them, you went to school with them, you knew who they were. Now, with these apps, you can hook up with a guy who just dropped in from, Eritrea, and you have no way of knowing. And that the entire dating process prior to the information age and the internet and so on was women dating men before they had sex, before they got emotionally committed, they would date men to test their trustworthiness and their commitment before they had sex, because once they have sex, it releases all these hormones, and so women end up having crushes on these guys that don't give a damn about them. That was my third date of Tuesday. So all of this stuff is really, really great. And he talks about this was interesting choice of words too, which I thought was really great. He talked about these opposing forces, the providers and the deservers. And he said, women are deservers. And he said, when you live in a female-dominated society, the clock is ticking, because if the deservers are running the government, then the deservers don't have to provide anything. They deserve things. And so the providers are forced to work to pay into the system so that the deservers can get more of what they deserve. And no matter how much you give them, it will never be enough, because they constantly raise their standards of what they deserve. And when you see these young women who call themselves 10 out of 10, and they're 4s, and you ask them, why do you rate yourself a 10 out of 10? What makes you think you can secure a man who makes 10 million? You've been married twice, you have 4 children with 4 baby daddies, and you're 100 pounds overweight, and you not only think you deserve a 10, you actually think you're gonna get him. What kind of psychopathy is that? And the answer that women will say is, well, I'm not going to settle because I deserve better. What do you mean you deserve better? What did you do to deserve it? Yes. One of the things he says is that women say, because men are starting to push back now, and they have been for quite a while. So men are starting to say, so listen, I know you want me to pay for everything, and I know you want me to, to buy all this, and I know that if you get bored with me because you've been with 162 guys this year, and the chances of me being the one instead of number 163 are high, and if I decide to marry you, and you've had 162 partners, and you decide you get bored with me the way you got bored with those other 162, and I become 163, then I'm going to lose half of my stuff and my house and whatever kids I might have. What is in it for me? And what do you bring to the table? And the women are saying, we don't bring anything to the table. We are the table. We are the table. Your job here on earth, men, is to provide for us. Well, what do we get in return? What do you mean, what do you get in return? You don't get anything in return. Your job is we are the table. You just bring the stuff and put it on the table. Bring the money, bring the love, bring the attention, put it on the table. We're the table. We'll consume and consume because we deserve it. And I don't understand the question. And so men are just checking out, and women are starting to notice. So anyway, he's great. So I just had to get that out before I forgot it. I can't say enough about him. I think he's an absolutely brilliant guy and funny, and his diagrams are really cute. And basically what he's saying is, among other things, he said, if you're a 1 out of 10, right? Forget those attraction skills. Here's a female 1, here's a male 1, here's a male 5, here's a female 5, here's a male 10, here's a female 10. Used to be that more or less horizontal connections were made. If you were a 4, you probably got a 4. Different sexes have different values, but nevertheless, if society thought you were about a 4 in status, you could assume to marry a 4 in status. But because of social media, the 4s and the 5s, females, are told by everybody, oh no, you're a 10, and just because you're 200 pounds overweight, go out there and slay queen. So they begin to think that they can get the 10s. So the 10s and the 9s of the males, all of the females from 4 up are focused on the 10s and the 9s of the males, and that means anything below an 8 for the men, they're not even visible. They don't even exist, which is why men are like, what do we get out of this? Men join these dating apps like Hinge or Tinder, And if they swipe 1,000 times, swipe right 1,000 times, want to match 1,000 times, they might get 3 responses, 4 responses. And of those, I mean, they really are. Their percentages are something like 1 or 2%. Females' percentages of matches are something like 60%. And so it's just a bloody mess. And there's no longer this horizontal ladder of people being comfortable with people who are, pardon the Victorian expression, but people who are at their own station. All of these women think that they have a shot at the top 10% of guys, and the bottom 90% of the guys, they're not going to settle for. The 4s are not going to settle for the 8s. It's psychotic, and that's why there's all of this anger on the part of women, and all of this resignation, and kind of like a relieved sort of a, you know what? I'm glad I got out of this mess, man. I'm just gonna play video games with my buddies, and we'll do what we have to do. It's just plain. It's catastrophic. Catastrophic. All right, Sonia, back to the actual question here. Topic: female modes of violence. ICE is winning in Minnesota, as Holman finally got the local authorities to commit to turning over criminal aliens, supporting ICE agents, and arresting rioters. He's really great at explaining things. He is. Besant just announced he's going to be auditing the welfare programs in Minnesota. On the propaganda front, Minecraft released their Good Trouble DLC, and the backlash to it has been wild, to say the least. This is all good news. I obviously know what Minecraft is. What is Good Trouble? Oh, I guess it's like an update or something. It's Asmongold again. So I guess people in the Minecraft community are all protesting now, and in the blocky world of Minecraft, I'm assuming that the goal now is to kill as many ICE agents as you can. Okay, got it. What's less good news is we're seeing children being brought to protests, yes, of course, including them in the chants, and teachers indoctrinating child students to march around in anti-Trump protest carrying signs. Yes, I've seen entire schools and classrooms completely vacate with all of the children holding up these anti-ICE signs, and they're just going out and missing a school day so they can protest for the things that their teachers want them to turn into, what these feminists or beta males want them to turn into. And these poor little boys are they're having such an assault on their biology that the colonies is going to be the biggest success in the history of entertainment, because there's never been an audience prepped for strong father figures and loving wives rather than boss bitches than the present time. And I am way ahead of this curve, way ahead. I doubt they're even aware of what they're doing. Just why? Just Orange Man bad. It's said that our law is designed to combat male forms of violence, overt aggression, and physical threats, whereas this seems more like female-coded forms of violence that the law is not equipped to handle: linguistic subterfuge, reputational damage, I'm not touching you tactics, and so on. Yeah, whole passive-aggressive thing. Apart from homeschooling, firing, and public shaming, I'm not sure what can be done about this. Homeschooling is what can be done about this. It's the only answer that we have right now. As parents have a right to their kids, and this isn't as obviously harmful as beating or mutilating them, that the law can get involved. Well, if you have too much masculinity in society and men are beating women and children, then that problem is a self-correcting problem, because other men will beat the men who are doing the beating of the women and children. But if you have an overly feminized society, there is no corrective mechanism. It is an out-of-control feedback loop that has no constraining factors. What do you do when your society is over-feminized? If they were reflections of each other, moral women would be stopping these immoral women, but that's not happening. And every day the 19th Amendment becomes more and more questionable. And I used to say that kind of flip with a kind of a, like a 10% flavor of there might be some truth to this. Every day I get more and more convinced that this is actually, that the reason that there's a patriarchy and has been throughout history is because nothing else works. Nothing. I have seen overly masculinized societies. You probably can't beat Nazi Germany for an overly masculinized society. We all saw what that did. But an overly feminized society is a death wish because women are empathetic and they have no ability to reason their way out of their feelings. Oh, this poor guy, he's an immigrant from a foreign country, and he had all this terrible upbringing. So he's also a mass rapist and a mass murderer, and somebody has to put him down. They don't have that gene. So there's that. Now, people are saying in the comments, it's not that women shouldn't vote, it's that feminists shouldn't vote. I completely agree, needless to say. That's absolutely true. That's exactly what I mean. But really, when you extend that argument to all the beta liberal males, what you're really saying is that liberals shouldn't be able to vote because they are not capable of taking care of themselves, let alone society. So that's that. Where was we? Apart from where do you draw the line between parental rights and cult indoctrination, and what can be done about it? Well, parental rights win every time, unless it can be proven in a court of law that parents are beating their children, not spanking them, beating them, then their children need to be taken away from them. Other than that, nobody has rights on the children except for the parents. Eric says, lest we forget the progressive era was brought about by men who were voted in by men. That got us amendments 16, 17, and 18. Meanwhile, women voting ended the progressive era and brought in the roaring 20s. No. No, because you're assuming that the suffrage movement didn't exist prior to the 19th Amendment. You're assuming that everybody was a meek little housewife, and all of a sudden the 19th Amendment happened, they started voting. The suffrage movement was what got us prohibition. And all of that stuff came from that. There's no question, it's obviously true that, what do you mean you suggested nothing of the kind? The progressive era was brought about by men who were voted in by men. That got us to the 16, 17. Meanwhile, women voting ended the progressive era and brought in the roaring 20s. Obviously, men voted for the 19th Amendment because women couldn't vote to get the 19th Amendment because they couldn't vote. But it was the constantly growing power of and pressure, and frankly, just the sheer, would you just shut up? Okay, of the suffragette movement had just taken over everything. I really think the guys just basically voted for the 19th Amendment just so they could have some peace and quiet. I actually think that's what happened, and I'm not being flip about it. I honestly think, you know what, just if we do this, we just shut up. Yeah. So, yes. Did women bring us the income tax? I don't know. I know the income tax that was voted on was 1%, Eric. So, what do you want to say? Did women bring us the 17th Amendment? Okay, guys. Well, you guys are front rank feminists, but I don't buy it. Okay, I don't buy it. I know how they vote. I know how they feel. I know how they are built biologically. And if you think that's unfair, then we can just agree to disagree on this. But there is no question that progressive politics would never have happened, could never have happened, if women didn't have the vote. Let's just look at today. if you take the female vote out of the demographics of the voting today, then every state in the union is blood red. Every city, too, for that matter, I think. So I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Let's see. And finishing Marusha's question here, as an aside, I think citizens, and especially cops, should be tearing down these barriers erected as autonomous zones as soon as they're being put up, in the same way it's been suggested that the Soviets wouldn't have continued with the Berlin Wall if the West had just bulldozed it from the start, or how Hitler likely couldn't have invaded his neighbors if a single cop were on the bridge. Look, the reason that, Eric, the progressive era, again, was before the vote, but the progressive era was designed to get the vote. What does a woman's vote actually count for on a day-to-day basis when it's not election day every 2 years? The progressive era was a result of this movement. This movement was pervasive and growing. It didn't just happen. If you're going to try and tell me that women didn't favor prohibition over men by a 7-to-1 margin or whatever it was, then you're wrong. Just because they didn't have the vote didn't mean they didn't have influence. It was. I'm not going to get into it. It's just too obvious, and I don't have time. I'm just not going to do it. But in any event, the main problem with our situation now is not even so much that the cops aren't bulldozing the barricades. The problem is that the law and the coercive power of the state is on the side of the protesters. If somebody is blocking my car in California, not in Florida, but in California, if somebody is blocking my car and smashing my windows, and I hit the accelerator and run over 4 of these people, I'm going to jail. I'm going to jail, not them. And when you look at the ICE protests around the country, you know where you don't see them? You don't see them in Florida. You know why? Because Ron DeSantis and all of the sheriffs that I've heard, basically, well, Ron DeSantis just came out and said so. If you are in your car going about your business and you are surrounded by a mob of people who are blocking you away, and you believe that you are in danger, he didn't say if you believe your life is threatened. If you believe that you are in danger, then you have you have a right to proceed right through that thing, and if they don't get out of their way, that's their fault. If they didn't want to get run over, they shouldn't be blocking traffic. That's not constitutionally protected protest. Constitutionally protected protest is standing on the sidewalk with signs. Standing in the middle of the street and blocking traffic is not protected protest, and mobbing you and beating the hell out of you or killing you or just preventing you from going about your business is not protected speech. I saw it was on a British show, was with the just Stop Oil, whatever those lunatics are who glue themselves to the road, and they stopped traffic for 6 hours, and 2 or 3 people died because they couldn't get to the hospital because of this protest. And some British talk show host asked one of these people, well, how do you feel about it? Well, I'm sorry they died and everything. It's really unfortunate, but you can't compare that to saving the planet. No, you're right, you can't. Those are real lives, and those are real people who died instead of hysterics who will believe anything. I have not seen an unhinged leftist that wasn't either a feminist, transgendered, gay, or playing that nice guy status, some beta male who thinks that by showing how down he is with the movement, he's gonna land himself in bed with this chick he's after. It doesn't work that way. Even leftists, even the most progressive leftist women will tell you that progressive men don't do anything to them. The best description of this I ever heard was from P.G. O'Rourke, who said in the introduction to one of his books, he said he used to be not only a liberal, he was a bomb thrower. I'm not angry, Eric. I'm just energized. he was talking about becoming a conservative and how people called him a Nazi, and he said, this doesn't really bother me too much as P.J. O'Rourke. He says, and the reason it really doesn't bother me too much is because never in the history of mankind has a woman ever fantasized about being tied up and ravished by a man dressed up as a liberal. No, that's PJ. That's why PJ is, there you go. Rubber line, or otherwise known as Airteki, a salve bill from the frozen wastes of Frigida. A couple years ago, Kurt Schlichter, he's a great guy, wrote a book called The Attack, which hypothesized the Iranians using left-wing groups to foment revolt in the U.S. I've noticed that the anti-ICE protests become more intense right after the U.S. started expressing a willingness to intervene in the anti-regime protests in Iran. Is this a case of life imitating art? Yes, Iran, Venezuela, China, Russia, all of these countries have a very, very vested interest in taking the most powerful military in the world and reducing it to absolute wreckage at the bottom of the ocean. I've said this many times. It doesn't do any good to have 11 carrier strike groups if you don't have the will to use them. You might as well take them out into the middle of the Atlantic and scuttle them. The Chinese don't have to beat American aircraft carriers. They just have to make sure that the people who man them aren't up for the work, aren't up for the job, that they're incompetent, that they hate the country, that they're out of shape, they can't handle stress. All of this stuff is in the interest of China, Iran, Russia, Venezuela, Hamas. Put them all together. And in fact, when you really get right down to it, it's got nothing to do with the United States or other people, other nations. If you look at it historically, there is always a vested interest in everybody below the most powerful nation. Let's say it's Rome, height of the Roman Empire. Everybody who's not Roman has a vested interest in watching Rome get weaker. Everybody. And so when you have the kind of economic, scientific, cultural, and military dominance that the United States has, then there is a motive for every other person in the world to want to knock us down a little bit, just for their own self-preservation. And I don't that makes sense to me. It just, I don't have any problem with that at all. What's going on here? One second. Where did I go? One moment. Okay. So there's that. Did I get all that? Oh, he also says, is it, I know that some of the riots are probably intended to distract from corruption and fraud charges being leveled against Democrats, but it is one hell of a coincidence. It is. And, okay, hang on a second. Hang on, sorry. Okay, I think that'll do it. Yes, if I could deal with that too, but we'll see. Okay, Bob Neef, just for fun, inside baseball sort of question. If I were president, I'd sign an executive order that every YouTube video must have the 10-second backward and 10-second forward button, as it makes going just a little bit backward or forward so much easier. Some videos have them and some don't. As a content creator, do you know if there are controls available that you provide this feature? Thanks, Bill. I'd appreciate what you do. Thank you. I'm not aware that it's something that I can turn on, but there are entire wings of unopened doors in YouTube that I have not used because I don't have the time or the interest to probe the depths of it, which is not really smart on my case, but kind of thing I would like to assign a person who is a social media manager. There are so many things that I can do to optimize things that I don't do because I don't have the time or the interest to dig in that deep. Yeah. So there's sometimes there's like you just hit a button, it goes 10 seconds forward or 10 seconds backwards. But I'm not aware of how to control it. So sorry about that. That's about the only answer I have. We got Astrocia and we got Eric. Like, okay, here we go. Howdy, Mr. Bill. Howdy. Been thinking about socialism as of late, and I realized I don't think I have a full understanding of the practice, even though I say I disagree with it. Could you explain its pros and cons, the way some European countries utilize parts of it, and ways people might understand how it works, such as free social services not actually being free? And thanks for the compliment on my avatar picture last week. I keep getting it wrong. Astrocia. Okay, see if I can memorize that because you told me twice or three times. Astrocia. You don't say. I'll remember that hopefully. Is that a picture of me as a kid playing baseball? It is, yes. You mean on the shelf behind me? Yes. It's badly faded, but it's there. Oh, get your bingo cards out. Yeah, it's really badly faded. Fortunately, before it faded, I got a digital version of it. Strange coincidence, I happen to remember that day pretty well. And because not everybody had their phone, as a camera in their pocket back then. So there was a guy with an actual camera there taking pictures that day. Turned out the guy was a creeper, but we didn't know that at the time. And on that at bat, I hit a triple, which is the biggest hit I ever got in my life. Never hit a home run in Little League. I could have probably knocked all of them out of the park, but I just didn't feel like it was fair to the other kids to dominate that way. I know that I often think about going back because I think if I were to go back to the Little League, I would certainly be the most valuable player. And to me, that's all that matters. I look forward to going back to playing Little League baseball again. Even though I don't have any cartilage anymore and can't run to save my life, I do believe I could probably smack that ball the 30 or 40 yards it takes to get it, deep into the outfield. And then at that point, I would be collecting the accolades. And if that doesn't work, I'll try transgenderism. But I got a good feeling about this. Anyway, so socialism. Yeah, so basically, well, I actually have videos on this. Hang on. Hang on. I did them originally for TPUSA. See where I put them. What did I call those? Come on. We the People 2.0 we call it. 4:33. You know what I'm going to do? Here's what I'm going to do. They're available. They're on YouTube somewhere. I'm going to just play them. You're going to get 4 minutes and 33 seconds of produced content. And I've got one on. It starts off on money. I got socialism, capitalism, corporations, government, and this is socialism. So you lucky, lucky, lucky devils. Here, enjoy this 4 minute and 33 explanation. It would probably take me longer than that to just talk about it. So let me just show you by doing what I do best or did best anyway before I started making awesome science fiction stuff. So here's socialism and the problems with socialism, and I will be back in 4 minutes and 34 seconds. Ready? Here, we'll start with YouTube, and here we go. Socialism is an economic system where high and low incomes are essentially tossed into a giant pot called the state and then redistributed more or less equally. That's why so many people think that socialism is more fair than capitalism. But let's see how fair all of this sharing really is. Let's take 10 randomly selected people and put them on a football field and tell them to run the 100 yards from one goal line to the other. Now, equality of opportunity, that's capitalism, means that everyone starts at the same line. No one should be allowed to start ahead. No one should be held behind. And when they start running, some people are going to run faster, some are going to run slower, and this creates unequal results. People cross the finish line at different times based on how fast they can run. Now, socialists think it's unfair that some people can run faster than others and that some are left behind. They want people's cars, houses, salaries, all the rest of it to be more or less the same. The equality of socialism is not equality of opportunity, but equality of result. Equality of opportunity means everyone starts from the same line at the same time. Equality of result means that everyone finishes at the same line and at the same time. Now, here's why socialism sucks. If everyone is forced to finish at the same time, then the entire race has to be run at the speed of the slowest runner. You can't run faster than you can run, and that means that every single one of the other people on the field have to be slowed down. Aha, you say, but socialism means that the fastest people go back and carry the slowest ones over the line. But like it or not, people do not behave that way. And I can prove it, because if you're one of those people who call yourselves socialists, well, then you should take your iPhones and your Xboxes down to a pawn shop, collect the cash, and distribute the money to the homeless. Some people are all about wealth redistribution when it's somebody else's wealth being redistributed to them, but when it's time to redistribute their own wealth, all of a sudden they're rock-ripped capitalists. The fastest runners do not go back and carry the slowest ones, and if they're forced to do so, then they simply do less work and slow down. I mean, why? Why run as fast as you can when the faster you go, the more weight you have to carry? Why study like hell for 15 years in order to become a brain surgeon when you're just going to get the same paycheck, the same house, the same car as a barista at Starbucks? You bust your butt for 15 years studying for your entire youth, and then most of that work gets taken away from you by force to pay someone who does nothing but get high and play video games all day? That's fair? Socialism doesn't turn baristas into brain surgeons. Socialism turns brain surgeons into baristas, and it gets worse. Socialism doesn't work because it's a pyramid fraud. Now, that's where the first ones in get paid by those who pay to get in second, and so on. A pyramid fraud pays off only when there are constantly more and more people coming in at the bottom to pay those above them. If you run out of people at the bottom, well, then you're boned. 4 people can work hard enough to support one person for his entire life, but one person cannot support 4. And for decades now, the population of these European socialist countries are not growing, but rather shrinking. So in order to keep the pyramid scheme going, they have to import new people from high birth rate places who, generally speaking, are not that interested in putting in a lifetime of work to support other people. They're interested in all of the free socialist benefits, and many of them are very interested in their religion. Oh, and by the way, Fidel Castro, socialist hero, champion of the new socialist working man and woman who work as hard for other people as they do for themselves and who share everything equally. Well, Fidel died recently.
Cuban socialism meant that his people barely had enough to eat for 3 generations, but at least they were all starving equally. When socialist icon Fidel Castro died, his personal net worth was $900 million. Suckers.
I'm going to do that again, not out of sheer wallowing my own crapulence. I just realized that I muted the mic on Twitch, but I didn't do it on YouTube, which means the YouTube guys saw half of the thing. So I'm just going to run it one more time so they can hear it. And I feel really bad about that for YouTube. So I'm going to just mute my mic, and we'll play them again. And if you're bored, you can check out. Otherwise, we'll do it for them because I felt really awful about that. And I liked it. I thought it was great. Hang on a second.
Socialism is an economic system where high and low incomes are essentially tossed into a giant pot called the state and then redistributed more or less equally. That's why so many people think that socialism is more fair than capitalism. But let's see how fair all of this sharing really is. Let's take 10 randomly selected people and put them on a football field and tell them to run the 100 yards from one goal line to the other. Now, equality of opportunity, that's capitalism, means that everyone starts at the same line. No one should be allowed to start ahead. No one should be held behind. And when they start running, some people are going to run faster, some are going to run slower, and this creates unequal results. People cross the finish line at different times based on how fast they can run. Now, socialists think it's unfair that some people can run faster than others and that some are left behind. They want people's cars, houses, salaries, all the rest of it to be more or less the same. The equality of socialism is not equality of opportunity, but equality of result. Equality of opportunity means everyone starts from the same line at the same time. Equality of result means that everyone finishes at the same line and at the same time. Now, here's why socialism sucks. If everyone is forced to finish at the same time, then the entire race has to be run at the speed of the slowest runner. You can't run faster than you can run, and that means that every single one of the other people on the field have to be slowed down. Aha, you say, but socialism means that the fastest people go back and carry the slowest ones over the line. But like it or not, people do not behave that way. And I can prove it, because if you're one of those people who call yourselves socialists, well, then you should take your iPhones and your Xboxes down to a pawn shop, collect the cash, and distribute the money to the homeless. Some people are all about wealth redistribution when it's somebody else's wealth being redistributed to them, but when it's time to redistribute their own wealth, all of a sudden they're rock-ripped capitalists. The fastest runners do not go back and carry the slowest ones, and if they're forced to do so, then they simply do less work and slow down. I mean, why? Why run as fast as you can when the faster you go, the more weight you have to carry? Why study like hell for 15 years in order to become a brain surgeon when you're just going to get the same paycheck, the same house, the same car as a barista at Starbucks? You bust your butt for 15 years studying for your entire youth, and then most of that work gets taken away from you by force to pay someone who does nothing but get high and play video games all day? That's fair? Socialism doesn't turn baristas into brain surgeons. Socialism turns brain surgeons into baristas, and it gets worse. Socialism doesn't work because it's a pyramid fraud. Now that's where the first ones in get paid by those who pay to get in second, and so on. A pyramid fraud pays off only when there are constantly more and more people coming in at the bottom to pay those above them. If you run out of people at the bottom, well then, you're boned. 4 people can work hard enough to support one person for his entire life, but one person cannot support 4. And for decades now, the population of these European socialist countries are not growing, but rather shrinking. So in order to keep the pyramid scheme going, they have to import new people from high birth rate places who, generally speaking, are not that interested in putting in a lifetime of work to support other people. They're interested in all of the free socialist benefits, and many of them are interested, very interested, in their religion. Oh, and by the way, Fidel Castro, socialist hero, champion of the new socialist working man and woman who work as hard for other people as they do for themselves and who share everything equally. Well, Fidel died recently. Cuban socialism meant that his people barely had enough to eat for 3 generations, but at least they were all starving equally. When socialist icon Fidel Castro died, his personal net worth was $900 million. Suckers.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that's where it'd be nice to have a producer. So I was slow in turning off the mic for YouTube, and then I was slow turning it back on again. Great. Anyway, we got 1 question left to go. Hope that got most of it for you, Astrasia. And yeah, I forgot how good that was. I really enjoyed that. And it was pretty quick and to the point. I've got 5 of them, and they're all real simple like that. I just really forgot how much I like those. Okay, last one for the night. Mr. Eric Blake is here. So tonight, the case of the midterm maintenance. YouTube was muted, right? It's not still muted, is it? Oh, okay. I'm being trolled. All right. So, Bill, have you been following the efforts to get the SAVE Act recently upgraded to the Save America Act through the House and Senate? I'm not. If not, here's a rundown. Okay, big link. Now, Chucky and the Senate Democrats have been spewing their Jim Crow 2.0 nonsense. Never mind. It's got to do with the filibuster. Never mind that the super energetic CNN poll guy has laid out how vast majorities of Black and Latin voters are vehemently in favor of the reform. Same for women, younger voters, even Democrat voters favor it. There's no excuse for our Senate leadership not to get it passed. If it happens, imagine how much our chances of gaining in the midterms go up. So, what do you think, Bill? Will Thune make it happen? Eric, I don't know anything about it. I'm sure I'll understand it theoretically. Talk spurs of changing filibuster rules. Hang on a second. Okay, so what I know about the filibuster, I learned pretty much exclusively from Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and that it is not certainly not in the Constitution. It was like the nuclear option. sort of a gentleman's agreement, that it was, a way to sort of put a little oil in the gears and make things turn a little more smoothly. I am obviously not up to date on this, but if I understand the argument correctly, basically what's happening is the Democrats are doing everything they can to drag their feet, and while we have the House, the Senate, the presidency, and the Supreme Court, we better get done what we can get done now, because the one thing you can count on is if the Democrats ever have those things again, they will simply eliminate anything that gets in their way, because they have no respect for traditions, authority, whatever. I've never really understood the filibuster, to be honest with you. I mean, I understand how it works. I've just never really gotten the concept. It sure makes great theater, seeing Jimmy Stewart up there talking till his voice is hoarse and all the telegrams coming in and all that stuff. But as far as I'm concerned, I can be real clear about this, actually. I don't want conservatives to have unlimited power. I want them to have unlimited use of the constitutional power that they do have. I hope that nuance wasn't lost on anybody. I want requiring confirmation of citizenship. Hang on. Hi, honey. Still in the show. Okay. Call you back. All right. Thanks. Confirmation of citizenship. Yes. If we don't get some form of election reform and election integrity done, then nothing else matters. This should have been, and still should be, number one priority. This making fair elections, and this has to do, and I'm including things like undoing all of the Democratic gerrymandering. When gerrymandering was a big thing a couple months ago, the Democrats were having conniption fits because the Republicans were doing to them what they've done to us for 150 years or 100 years or whatever it was. We need to, the one thing we need to do, more important than immigration, more important than Greenland, more important than defense, more important than anything, is election integrity and the enforcement of the rules and creating. The enforcement is already there. It's just in the Constitution. It's just that the Democrats don't give a damn what the Constitution says. If it benefits them, then they quote it chapter and verse, and if it doesn't, then they pretend it doesn't exist. But nothing else matters. They need to, Tim Moore says, Democrats need to be crushed and fought with every possible tool. Yes, we cannot defeat cheaters if we're not willing to play hardball. Yes, these are not disagreements. This is a completely different morality. Was it Adams who said our government is essentially designed for a virtuous people and will not function under any other? They're not virtuous people, and see, here's the thing. We can really reduce this to something meta. There are two strategies for getting what you want in life. There is the long-term gain, and there's the short-term gain. Winners prefer the long-term gain because winners know that over time they will outcompete the losers. The losers will take the short-term gains. And by short-term gains, I mean cheating. Cheating does not benefit anybody. If you have a society that is composed of cheaters, you end up in a low-trust society, which are these hellholes that all of these people are coming to America to escape. High-trust society is one where people play by the rules because they understand that the rules are there to make it easier for everybody and for the most benefit to pass to the most people. And when it really comes right down to it, your political affiliation is a combination of a few very, very simple, basic biological facts about yourself. One of them is actual physical courage. One thing I've noticed about Democrats, about progressivism, is how much of it is willingness to show your throat to the wolf in the hopes that he won't attack you. Just plain physical cowardice. And the other part of it is moral integrity. If you don't believe in the rules and you are allowed to break them, then you get a lot of short-term benefits. Cheaters have enormous advantages in the short term over people who play by the rules. But people who play by the rules in the long term will vastly not only outperform cheaters, but they'll live in a much, much better place. So it's just a question of understanding that these people are not playing by the same rules that we're playing. Rules are a joke to them, and people who play by the rules are not people of integrity. They're suckers because they are short-term thinkers who know that they cannot compete on a level playing field, and they are shameless about it. Shameless about it. I know of somebody who has a. It's a long story, but it's one of those cases of no good deed goes unpunished, where somebody was in need, and a friend of a friend allowed somebody to stay at their house for what they thought was going to be 2 to 3 weeks, and it's been 17 months now, and it causes enormous stress. And I said to this person, "You understand, right, that you're feeling stress, but they're feeling no stress whatsoever. All of the stress and all of the emotional discomfort and all of the unpleasantness that you feel, they feel nothing. They feel nothing. They will stay there until you die, because they don't feel the discomfort you feel." And this is what we're up against. And I'm going to just close with this perspective, because it's one of the first things I ever noticed in my political commentary, and it keeps coming back. It's not like those people are freaks, right? This is how history and humanity has always functioned, as a low-trust, cheater-based society. They're not the freaks. We're the freaks. We're the ones with the freakish, different attitude that no one has ever really tried on Earth before. No one has ever really built a society that trusted people to govern themselves, because they believed that the majority, not that all people were virtuous, or that most people were, or that everybody was virtuous all the time, but on balance, there was something about the quality of the people that came to the United States that made them more virtuous than other people have been in history before or since. I think most of that had to do with the kind of people that self-select to leave everything behind and take a chance on a better life through hard work. I just think that's the human seed that was planted in America, and it produced a once in history kind of anomaly. And that characteristic is rapidly disappearing, and so is the integrity of the societal structures. Not to put too fine a point on it, but the entire reason that I'm doing the colonies is I'm trying to show people how the future can look like the past, how all of the things that make us not only successful, but the kind of people we are proud of, are a result of hardship and cooperation, voluntary cooperation, not coercion. And by reintroducing hardship, I reintroduce virtue. And by reintroducing virtue, I reintroduce happiness. This is the great human dilemma. And people constantly say that those who don't learn the lessons of history are doomed to repeat them. And the reason that people have humans in general have such a hard time learning this lesson is not because it's counterintuitive, although it is. It's because it's tragic. The more comfortable we are, the less happy we become. And who is going to go out there and voluntarily increase their own discomfort in order to be happier? It is perfectly mirrored in the microcosm by people who go to the gym. Right? I went through a period. I had a road to Damascus moment one day in 1988 when I just realized I was a 98-pound weakling and I was just tired of it. And so the next day I went to the gym, and I went to the gym every single day for 3 years. I mean, went every day. I might have missed 2 or 3 days in 3 years. And if I missed a day, I freaked out. And then I just missed 1 day, and then I missed 2, and then I went back to a couple of days, and I missed 3, and I went back, and then I just stopped going because I lost the motivation, I lost the discipline. But when I was doing that, I was much healthier and much more proud of myself. So, discipline is hard. Laziness is easy. If you need to lose weight and you like to eat delicious things, then you have to make a decision. Which do you want more? And the problem we have as a society is the weight loss and the increased health is obviously better for you, but it's delayed. You don't see the results of this for months or sometimes years. Meanwhile, there sits the chocolate eclair right in front of you at Starbucks or whatever, and it's almost impossible to make that decision. Not impossible, but it's difficult. So this is why humans are built this way. It's easier to be comfortable, obviously, and nobody wants to intentionally inflict discomfort on themselves. And this is unique in history. We've never had a time where a society was so comfortable. Well, I guess the Romans and all these empires at their peak probably were cases of that, but the level of discipline it would take for a society to intentionally increase its discomfort in order to stay strong is almost unimaginable to me. And that's why we have the cycle of civilization, because no one has the discipline to limit their comfort. So we take the short term because it's not only is it easier, we feel like, isn't this what we worked for? Isn't this what our parents and our grandparents and our great-grandparents, my great-grandparents were coal miners and textile workers. Didn't they all work 12-hour days, 6 days a week, and die at 38 from black lung disease so that we could be comfortable? Yes. But what do we do with it? We spend it on watching WKRP in Cincinnati telethons, and we don't do it to spite them. We do it because it changes us. And the thing about the colonies is they do not. Yes, we have a nation. That's exactly right, Tim Morris. We have created a nation of deservers. That's of all the things that Homath got right. That's the most important thing, is to define them as deservers, providers and deservers. And so the thing about the colonies is they don't have the option to simply sit back and be comfortable. They are forced to work, because if they don't, they'll die. There's no welfare state in the colonies. There's no time blindness in the colonies because the margins are too thin. They're just too thin. So, anyway, that's that. We actually went pretty long tonight. How long did we go? Wow. I thought that was 2:26. That's 3:26. We're cracking. We're pushing 3.5 hours, man. That's actually pretty impressive. So makes up for sometimes I have to do short shows, so that's one of them. Yeah, I think I'll do it. So I think we covered pretty much everybody. I'm going to call my beautiful wife back and see what's going on, and that'll do it. So thank you to the members at BillWhittle.com for making all this possible. As always, extremely grateful. And as always, and to our Strato community as well. Monday night, I have got some fun stuff. I will be introducing the fourth member of the Turner family. It's going to be Claire night on Monday night. Got some amazing renderings of Claire, really amazing, and that's the one character I really haven't touched much mentally, but yeah, I did all of the groundwork that I had to do. I did, for every single outfit, you have to render front view, 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees, both ways, key them out, it's a lot, but it really, really holds up, and I think you're going to like her, and I like her. She's not quite as good looking as I thought she would be, but I think she will be. She's 16, and I think she's going to really grow into it. Why last name Turner? Don't know. Just occurred to me. I couldn't think of a name, and I just stuck with that. I just thought, maybe it's a little. I guess if you really analyze it, it's because they turned their course over there. Their name is Turner because it's not Smith. And for some reason that I can't explain, in the last 2 or 3 weeks, they've been running like short clips from Lost in Space, the original. And when I was a little kid watching the show, the first season was so awesome. It was really good science fiction, the first season. And about halfway through the first season, Jonathan Harris realized he was going to be replaced as the villain, so he started hamming it up, and Irwin Allen bought it, and they were trying to compete with Batman for the camp and everything. But over the last couple of weeks, whenever I see Dr. Smith on these clips, I'm filled with a homicidal rage. I know he's supposed to be annoying, and he's always been annoying, but there's something lately that makes me just want to take Jonathan Harris, the actor, and smack him across the face. Like, seriously, dude. Honestly, you make Brazilian male prostitutes look like British bankers. Dude, just stop it. Stop it. I just can't take it. I really have a hard time taking it. Here's a first time chat from Wormlish. Yo, is that Bill Whittle? It is. It's one of them anyway. I can't say that I'm the definitive model, but I'm definitely from that factory. So yeah, it's me. Do I know you? There's no AI. What about data, Elliot? We got all kinds of cool things coming up. So anyway, on Wednesday you get a chance to, Monday you'll get a chance to meet Claire, who's a disturbed soul, but for the right reasons, and I really like her, and I like the whole family, and I'm getting on this. Almost done with all the prep work I need for Cast 27, this little standalone short film. Time to open up the own Colonies channel, and I'm going to put some promotional money behind these things, and start building buzz before it comes time to do the crowdfunding for the pilot episode. The pilot episode is going to be at least 90 minutes, maybe pushing 2 hours. There's a lot of stuff we've got to get in that pilot episode. But again, new tools come out every day, and the best tool by far up until 2 days ago was Google VO 3.1. The physics were fantastic. You could use elements to create a video, and it had it came with its own sound effects, including dialogue. But Google would not allow uploading any pictures of minors at all. I could not get Will into VO. And that was a huge problem. And then Kling 3.0 came out, and now they can do 15-second clips instead of 5. And I got Will and and Claire inside the rover, and I've just got a couple more things to do with getting the rover finalized and a couple things like that, and then we're golden. So, yeah, it's great. Okay, that'll do it. Thanks everybody for joining us. We'll have some fun stuff to show you on Monday night. Until then, keep your powder dry, and all the rest of those pithy comments. Thanks for being with us, and we will see you guys on Monday night.